You're listening to the RPM Podcast.
Listen to it with your ear holes.
And here we are again, episode 148 of the RPM Podcast. It is August 26th, 2019 at 9:59 p.m. I'm Scott Riggleman in Manchester, New Jersey. My brother Timmy Riggleman is up in Farmingdale, New Jersey, and Josh Matthews is down in Waretown, New Jersey. How you all guys doing?
Good.
I'm good, ready to go.
All right, we do have a special guest on, and we got a late start here, so we want to get him right on the show. He's actually the winner from Gateway last Saturday at in the K&N East and West race.
Oh,
Pro
I thought you were going to
race.
say the IndyCar race.
No, the K&N East Pro Series. They had a combination race with the East and the West, which is pretty cool. The driver is from Dawsonville, Georgia, but right now he's in Statesville, North Carolina. Spencer Davis. How you doing, Spencer?
Oh, good, man. What about you?
Oh, we're good up here. The weather's good. Everything's good. We had a great racing weekend up here, too. I mean, Gateway, man, that's a cool track. Was that your first time ever racing at Gateway?
No, sir. Second time at Gateway. Ran last year for Danny Watts, modified team owner, turned K&N owner last year. And, this was my second trip there for the K&N Pro Series and for myself overall.
It was a cool track. I raced out in Kansas one time when we drove out there. We passed Gateway, and we actually pulled in the parking lot and checked it out and checked it all around. It's having a little bit of a bumpy business side of it right now. How was the racing there? Is the track still in good shape?
Yeah, I think they repaved it before they started back racing there when they got new management. But the track itself still really awesome. Facility itself's real nice too, and the surrounding area is definitely just as nice as the racetrack. So real cool facility. Always cool to go to St. Louis too. So they definitely got a real neat track there, real unique too. As a unique factor, I'd put it. Home is as unique as Thompson. It's its own animal for sure.
You were driving the number 30 car. It was sponsored by All Pro. One thing I saw that was caught my eye was it was a Ford. Was the car a Ford you were driving this week?
Yes, sir. The only Ford in the West field, there's two more Fords, but in the East side, we're the only Ford in the whole field.
I always kind of knew you as like a Toyota development driver. That's why it caught my eye that you were driving a Ford now. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How'd you switch over to Ford?
Last year, I've kind of driven Toyotas since I left MDM Motorsports back in 2016. I got hooked up through Toyota through Jack Irvin, their driver research developmental guy. And, got a break and got the race for Venturini Motorsports 2 years ago. Last year, I got to race some races for Kyle and also some races for Bon Sus in the super side. So, just kind of took a different path this year. All their seats were full. And, Jack wanted to keep me in the family, but at the same time, he understood that obviously I still got to race. So, I had a friendship through Mark Rett and Terry Jones over at Rett Jones Racing prior. Would hang out at their shop, kind of help them out what little bit I could. And, it just blossomed into getting the race for them this year, trying to help get their team back on track, try to give them their first win, which, thankfully happened this weekend. So, kind of all of this has been paying off with the switch over to Ford Performance Fusion.
That's awesome, man. Tim kind of popped it on us that he was bringing you on as a guest. Tim and Spencer has been friends for a while. Spencer also helps my nieces out with their go-kart racing. Spencer, my son actually lives down in Georgia. He lives down in Cobb County. He actually went to Kennesaw State College. He's been to the Georgia Hall of Fame Museum down there, and he says there's a bunch of like go-kart stuff there. Spencer Davis go-kart stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started racing?
Yeah, Scott, I started go-kart racing at the ripe age of 5 years old. My dad had actually raced before I did. He started out like in mini stocks, and then, I kind of got all his way up to Hooters Pro Cup racing and ARCA racing. And, actually, I always say it's pretty bad, but the year he was going to race for probably the best team he'd ever raced for, I decided I was wanting to start racing. So, he took, a real big sacrifice right there and started me go-kart racing. He just slapped me in one, and we went to the local dirt track back home, Blue Ridge Speedway, and I ran my first race. I'll never forget it. I finished second I was actually leading and got spun and finished second my first race backwards. So, it had me hooked from there. So, interesting way to start, but it was in the blood, second generation racer, which was really cool too.
So you started in go-karts, but you actually started on dirt ovals in go-karts?
Yes, sir. Dirt oval go-kart racing.
See, go-kart racing is real big up this way, but when I started racing, the go-kart racing was big, but it was all paved road courses. It's pretty unusual that, to hear you say that you ran on dirt ovals. But what size dirt ovals were they running the karts on?
We've raced on anything from literal bull rings. You go to tracks that, they cut bull rings and put some banking into them, ran them and indoor tracks to all the way up. I think my biggest track I raced is a 3/4 mile track, Central PA. It's actual dirt track. It went back to pavement for a little bit. I think now it's
I know that track. Yeah.
So pretty much any size, they actually all usually range between a little bit under a 1/4 mile to, about a big 3/8 is about the common size. But yeah, you get some real good racing. I mean, heck, go-karts I run, the adult classes go almost 80. So, I mean, you get some real good racing out of those things.
I tell you what, I raced a lot of different race cars in my life, and I tell you, one of the most funs I had racing was when I raced go-karts. It's just a shame I got so big. I was over 200 pounds when I was 18 years old and 6'3". You know what I'm saying? I just got too big and too heavy to keep racing the karts. I really loved racing karts. How long did you race karts for?
Probably for I would say 7 years full time. My 8th year go-kart racing, we just did it part-time till I started big car racing. So, I ran for a while, ran for a bunch of big manufacturers, and a bunch of big teams, and had a lot of success in go-kart racing, which, kind of helped propel me to the next level, like you always hope.
Did you run a 2-stroke go-kart or 4-stroke?
The motors we run are all 4-stroke motors. Just the Briggs & Stratton animal motors and Briggs & Stratton flathead motors. At the end, they had, like what Timmy's daughters race, those clone motors, but they were just starting to come in as I was moving on and up. So, just all 4-stroke though.
Yeah, for a lot of people who don't know, you were racing champ karts up to 2 years ago, right? You were playing around with them in Florida and stuff. You had them, right?
Yep. I still go every year down to Daytona for the big WK event, the Dirt Kart Week. We go down there every year still and run, the champ buggies and the flat carts still every year.
That's cool. So he's probably run into Eric Graham and Sam Ballard and who was it? Was it Fittipaldi was down there too? Eric Brennan was talking to that one year.
That was probably the road course stuff, though.
Yeah.
He goes down there for the dirt track stuff. We have other hosts on the show that do the show with us every once in a while, and they're actually officials and announcers for the WKA karting, and they do a lot of the big shows down in Daytona and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure that's the asphalt road course stuff that they do.
But still, how did your weekend raced at Daytona?
Yeah. How did your weekend go from start to finish this weekend here?
It actually went pretty good. We unloaded on test day, and I felt like we were really good. And, General Tires came on board this year to supply our K&N cars with tires instead of Goodyear. So, they've kind of had a little bit of inconsistency with tires. So we actually got a bad sit during our test day, which kind of threw us off. But luckily, on actual race day, all our tires matched right for spring rates and all, and we didn't have no issues after we scuffed them. So it went real good. We led practice by over a tenth over second place. Had a little bit of a hiccup in our group qualifying run and started fourth. But, heck, man, we ran second to fourth the whole race, all depending on restarts, what line we were in. And, they actually called the race a little bit short because we were on a time restraint for IndyCar. So I think it got cut 15 laps short, but they, let us know ahead of time. So the last restart, they called it a green-white checker since we were actually over our time limit, which seems to happen for the lower series a lot in NASCAR now. And, it just everything worked our way in order to grab that win. I think it couldn't have came at a better time because I didn't think we were going to get that caution.
Tell us a little bit about the team. Who's your engine supplier, and who's your crew chief?
Co-owner Mark Rett and Rhett Jones Racing is actually the crew chief too. He won the 2009 ARCA Series championship with Justin Lofton, and then he's worked for some different teams. He's worked for Turner Motorsports, Ganassi, just a bunch of real high-profile teams. He's won a bunch of races. Has different roles in the sport. With people like Kurt Busch, like I said, Justin Lofton, Juan Pablo Montoya. Brian Clausen, he's won with a bunch of people, and so he's my guy. He's also we have built our own chassis in house, so that's really neat. So it's nice to win when you build your own chassis. Then our engine builder, we use Robert Yates Racing Engines and PME Performance Race Motors. So we got two different engine suppliers, which kind of works out well, just because in this series we go to a bunch of high RPM, high mileage tracks, so it's nice to always have some fresh, good stuff every time we go to the track when we can. And, our bodies are hung by Performance Vehicle Warehouse, Timmy over there, Timmy McKitchen. So, it's not a bunch of big names, but we make it count.
It's something we've been following, and we're having trouble getting a grip on it. Maybe you can help us out a little bit with this. How do you feel about the ARCA and the K&N series combining for next year? What are your thoughts on that?
They've done a bunch of testing beforehand on it, and sometimes I feel like obviously one side is going to try to play games so they have an advantage coming into the actual season coming up. So I'm not sure if some of the testing has been 100% correct. I think the K&N cars are being maybe shown a little bit better than they should be with some of the ARCA cars. So I believe that maybe if they get a team that owns both ARCA and K&N car out there, they'll get some true data. But they actually had I believe they did maybe have an ARCA car at Bristol.
Yeah, I think Joe Graff was in a full-blown ARCA car with you guys at Bristol.
Yeah, and I think he had. Well, I think they had it with the 2020 package up underneath of it. So it was the Ilmore motor with all the rules updated with Chad Bryant Racing. And it ran pretty good, and I think maybe they were still a little bit there. I would have been interested to see maybe one of the K&N regulars get in that car and see what they could do at Bristol. Maybe give it a fair shake, but it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, you don't know till you actually get out there racing, because the front axle weight's different from a K&N car to an ARCA car, and the horsepower difference is obviously huge too. But it'll be interesting. NASCAR's trying to take the right steps to make it fair for next year for everybody. And the format they're actually running, you can win up to, if you can win up to 4 championships if it works out right. Because, I think they're doing a short track challenge, a big track challenge, East, West, and overall winners. So it's going to be a good deal. I feel like it's going to be different. I think it's going to have more of a maybe more of a short track vibe to it is what I hope. Hopefully get it back to like the Busch North days vibe, where I don't know, where you get a little bit more spunk out of it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do something. I mean, both divisions were really starting to die down on car counts and stuff like that. And this year's the car counts have been low, but we discussed this with a few other people, and we think that the car counts are low right now because some people are hesitant about what's going to happen next year. And some people are playing the waiting game, like kind of like laying back a little bit, waiting to see what happens with the 2 series. I mean, you just had the combination race with the West cars and the East car. How many cars were at Gateway? I think there was like 19 or 20.
Yes, sir. I believe there was 19 cars there, 18, 19, 20, something like that. I can't honestly remember.
I'm showing 19 on the results, and that's including the guy that crashed out on the first lap.
Did you enjoy racing with the West guys?
Yeah, it's always fun running the combination events, because it's kind of like the modified series when you had the North and South series. When you go to Bristol, you kind of have bragging rights, and we try to always bring the trophy back to the East, because
right.
That's all, obviously where you want it to be, is on your side of the states. So it was real fun. There's some stiff competition out there. Derek Krause and the McAnally cars And those Sunrise Fords, the 9 and the 6 are always real tough to race against. So, it's always nice to have a couple more real competitive cars out there, to give you a run for your money. So it's always nice to bring those bragging rights back, though, and be the overall winner out of everyone in the K&N Series garage.
Is there any more combination races like that this year?
No, sir. That was the last one. So we had, Iowa about 2 months ago now, and then we had the one this past weekend in Gateway. So they ramped it up to 2 combo races every year now, which is real cool. But, this is the last one for this year.
Have you ever been to just a standalone West race?
Yes, sir. Back my rookie season and my true rookie season in K&N back in, I believe it was 16. I went to one K&N West event. It was the last one they held at Phoenix International Raceway.
Are they racing Phoenix again this year?
Yes, sir. They actually just brought it back on the schedule for the West for their season finale. And I think they're actually going to get 2 races next year, which is going to be really neat because that's a fun racetrack to go to. It's actually going to be the biggest one K&N goes to again because I believe it's 1.25 miles. I think it's a little bit bigger than Gateway.
Do you have any plans of maybe making that race this year?
We've talked about it. We got to see if it's in our budget at the end of the year. Fortunately, we've been real fortunate this year to not really do any damage. I think the most we've replaced is a bumper cover after Bristol. But other than that, we haven't had to do a single thing to the cars besides just wipe them down and, do regular routine maintenance. So hopefully if it's there, we'll make our trek out there. But if not, there's always next year. But it would be cool to go out there and, try to get a win on the West side since it's the first time back at Phoenix.
Yeah, I was watching the K&N race. I was out in my garage. I think it was Wednesday night working on my race cars, and I was watching the K&N race from Washington State out there at the Evergreen Speedway. And I heard one of the teams say something pretty cool. He's like, we keep racing as long as we don't wreck too much. As long as we're preparing to go racing and not repairing to go racing, we're in good shape. I thought that was a pretty good saying.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good saying to have. And, even this year, we have 2 cars. We still think that way, and I definitely had to think that way last year because when I was driving the 82 car, we had 1 car, and for 3/4 of the season, I was only working on it during the week. So that's never a bad mentality to have, in my opinion. And that's always a way to find more success is, just not trying to get to the next race, but making sure you're fully prepared for the next one.
Now, you're from Dawsonville, Georgia, so I got to ask you this question. When you won that race at Gateway, do you know if they blew the siren over at the pool hall?
We tweeted out to them after the race. I always mess with them before the start of every race I go to, tell them to get that thing fired up and ready. But all I got was a tweet back saying they were firing it up after, I tweeted them from the media center. So I actually don't know if they did it or not, but I'm assuming they did because they do it for Chase. So they always said they do it for me too when I win. They have before, so I'm going to say it's no different this time.
Do you still have a place in Dawsonville, Georgia?
My parents live there. My dad lives in Dahlonega. My mom lives in Dawsonville. So, still can go there. Our family race shop's still right in northern Dawsonville, and I try to go there whenever I get a free second. So, I still can go there, and I still have a place to go there. My race cars are still there, so you might as well still consider me home.
I was actually at the K&N East race last year at Dover, and there was a rain delay, and I actually got to sit with your father for like an hour and a half talking racing with him. Man, that guy loves racing more than anybody I ever talked to, and he's so proud of what you do. One of the things I didn't know is you guys had ARCA trucks. It was called the All-Star Race Trucks, American Race Trucks, a long time ago. And I also raced in that series up here, and he was telling me how he liked it and stuff like that. And he said you guys even still had one of those trucks laying around.
Oh, yeah. Dad loves racing probably more than anyone in the garage. Even when I'm not racing, he'll still go to races and hang out at them. And, I believe if I didn't do it, he'd probably get back in a car, which I've tried to get him to do a couple times. But he says it's my time to race, not his. But, yeah, we still have that pro truck that I ran that he actually used to race. So it's more or less a family heirloom now. It's sitting with 4 flat tires with a cover over it. When I finally get a garage built up here at my house in North Carolina, I'm going to bring it up here and, get it not fixed back up because I want it to look like how the last time I raced, but get it, fired back up and, ready just to have as a showpiece, since it's my first first truck I ever won a big kart race in. So it means a lot to me, especially since it was my father's too. So we've both won races in it.
See, Josh, you're not the only one sitting around with a race car with 4 flat tires behind your house.
Yeah, but I don't have the success to back anything up.
Why we got you on here? Scooter wanted to know what was the best food at the pool hall.
Oh, best food at the pool hall, boy, is the bully burger with smiley fries, man. You gotta go old school.
Well, you gotta explain that to us a little bit better. What's the bully burger with smiley fries?
So the bully burger is there's a guy back in the day that used to come to the pool room and he ordered the same thing every time. It's just a cheeseburger with coleslaw. I believe it's mustard, lettuce, and onions. And so they named it after him after he got it for so many years. So that's kind of their signature burger now. And then the smiley fries is something I've got since I was a kid. It's literally it's like mashed potatoes shaped into a smiley face, deep fried. I mean, you can get them at the stores, but
we got them here. Yeah, the girls love them. We got them here. Spencer
they're just as good.
Smiley fries, just like you.
Well, it's
laughing.
It's got to be better than liver mush.
Oh, way better. Way better.
Not better than pork roll.
No, not better than pork roll.
What about the boiled peanuts? Scott hates those.
Yeah, we stay away from the boiled peanuts. How do you like boiled peanuts, Spencer?
Oh man, those things are bad luck from what I've always been told. I already got enough bad luck, so I try not to have any more than I can stand.
Do you have any? No, do you have any? Go ahead, Scott. A lot of people asked when I said you were coming on here. They wanted to know if you had any plans in the future, or do you still want to drive a modified again?
Oh, always. Last year, racing for Danny, actually got to fill in for Woody at Langley, which was, really, really cool because I've always had a lot of fun racing there. And, I got to run the World Series, I believe it was 2 years ago for Danny and the 88 car. But, I always want to run one. I always joke around with him, asking if I could run his backup car some. And, if the opportunity presents itself, I try to. Chris and Dylan Kopech still have theirs. And since Dylan doesn't like racing, just like seeing it collect dust, I always joke with Chris, telling him he needs to put another real race car driver in there and let his son drive his Subaru around and come watch us race it.
That was another thing when I was talking to your father. He was telling me how much he loved the modifieds and he loved racing them and stuff like that. And he was hoping to see you back in one soon. Another question we ask our guests all the time is because you've been to so many racetracks and you pretty much grew up doing this. What racetrack has your favorite racetrack food?
I've had a bunch of good food actually at go-kart tracks, but I say for big car tracks, I would honestly have to say Thompson. Those fruit trucks they put it right at the beginning of the where you come off the racetrack. Those hand-cut fries are always really good. You can't beat some Dunkin' Donuts from there either. So I'd have to say Thompson. That's the one that sticks out. I always like getting their fries every time I go there.
Now, you have any problem eating before a race? I've been racing all my life too. On Saturdays before I go racing, I can't eat nothing all day long. You can eat no problem before you get into the race car?
No, usually I don't like doing it because I don't want to get sick for any type of reason from food poisoning or anything weird. So it's became natural habit just to stay away from food till after the race. But after the race, I'd stop at the first drive-through I can get to, chow down. But all day it's water, Gatorade, maybe the occasional soda.
But how did you get to Gateway? Do you fly there? Do you guys drive there in a van? Or
we were one of two teams to drive. Everyone else in the garage flew out there, either private or commercial, and we've actually driven to every race this year besides one, which is same thing I did last year. Heck, I'm accustomed to it. I don't mind driving. A bunch of people kind of prefer to fly, but I don't care as long as I get the race. So actually after the race, after most races, I try to drive as far as I can. Help the guys out because not only have I worked hard all day, they have too. So it's equal for all of us to drive. So heck, after our win, the first thing I did was strap down the trophy in the very back. And then the second one was turn on some tunes, turn on the AC, and I got a good 4 hours of driving in to get us closer back to North Carolina.
How far of it is it a drive from North Carolina to the Gateway track?
It said 10.5 hours on the GPS, but we all know that's nonstop. So it took us about 12 by the time we stopped and got gas and ate some food through the old Burger King drive-through our victory dinner and swapped drivers a couple times.
That's a good question. A lot of people don't know when you win a big NASCAR race like that. Where does the trophy go? Does the owner keep it? Do you get it? Is there 2 trophies? Does it just stay in the race shop? What did you do with the trophy from Gateway?
Always in my career, I never had a problem with giving up a trophy because, it was always mine and my father's car. But like when I won with the MDM, you were supposed to give the trophy to them, and it never made it to the shop. I took it home, and Gateway was no different. I told Mark, even though that was their first win as a team, I'm like, man, I got to keep the original because, heck, that just broke my 3-year drought in the K&N series and my 2-year drought in my own personal career overall for racing. So that one was special. But luckily you can, in like the K&N series and all, they know who makes the trophies. So, I'm going to get an exact replica for the shop and get like 3/4 size for the crew that was there and for car owner Mark and Terry and probably our engine builder too. So, everyone will get one because it's a special.
Make sure your spotter gets one too, boy.
Oh yeah, I'll make
sure. Don't need one.
I'll make sure old Frankie Kimmel gets one too because heck, he helped.
I didn't know he spots for you now, Frankie.
Yeah. Frankie went and spotted Gateway since he was out there doing what he has in his company, that dartfish stuff. So
yes,
it made more logical sense dollar-wise to get him since he was already out there. And I like Frankie. He's, a friend of mine, so I don't mind having him spot one bit.
Yeah, I know Frankie. Hot Pockets introduced him to me one time as Timmy Riggleman. And he's all into like those super speedway street stock type cars that they race or did race. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he built like a beautiful Camaro to run that Mass Series, down at Dillon Motor Speedway. He ran that New Year's Bash race that was on TV and everything with the street stocks.
Yeah, and he must have thought that I was you. He's all talking to me. I'm like, dude, that's my brother, dude. I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
I know how to push a button on a radio.
If you read Facebook this last week, apparently I don't know how to do that anymore either.
Spencer, you mentioned that who makes the NASCAR trophy so you can get duplicates made. Who does make the trophies for them?
You had different people. Like on the Cup Series, you had like Sam Bass with Pink Guitars when he was around before he unfortunately passed away. And, sometimes they get people like Corey LaJoie to build them since he, they do custom metal working. But this past weekend, they actually had someone that, was a parent company, I think in the Monaco vodka deal, to make the trophy. So they get some cool people to make them. So usually it's as simple as actually there's usually a sticker on the bottom with a number on it. And you usually just call them and they'll get you the direction on where to go. So it was quite interesting because I was like, I figured I'd have to like call the guy that runs the series, Chris Wright, and then he'd have to get me somebody. And then nope, it was as easy as flipping the trophy upside down, finding a sticker.
Yeah, I had the same problem this weekend. I love keeping my trophies too. I hoard them at Wall Stadium. They actually give you a driver and an owner's trophy, so you do have 2 trophies and they're identical. And I was fortunate enough to win at Wall Stadium this weekend. And when I came, at Wall Stadium, it's a tradition when you win the race, you leave your car out, or I have an open trailer, so I just put the car in the trailer. Everybody puts everybody puts their trophies on the trunk of the car, so when the fans come in the pits after the races, they can see the trophies and everything like that. Well, when I walked back in the pits, I only had 1 trophy on the trunk of my car, and I asked my wife, I said, where's the other trophy at? She's like, oh, I gave it away. I'm like, oh, God. She gave it to one of our crew guys, but he really liked getting the trophy. But, yeah, I'm like you. I don't like giving my trophies away.
Exactly, man. I understand hoarding them. I mean, like I got probably every trophy I've ever won down to, kid kart racing, so I can't blame you there. Even if I get 2, sometimes I try to keep both, even though I might not always be right.
One of the most depressing places I've been is Scott's garage because I looked at everything that I'm never going to accomplish.
I used to keep the trophies in the house, and so I started watching that Madhouse show, and they would show Bert and Jason Meyer's shop and how they had the trophies like surrounding the walls in their shop, and I always thought that was cool. So we built the shelf around my garage to put the trophies, and I always thought that was cool. And then I really wanted to hoard my trophies because I wanted to have them in the garage, you know.
Oh yeah, I've seen that when they used to replay the Madhouse stuff, how they have it all the way around. It's always a cool way to do it.
Did you ever race at the Madhouse?
Yeah, unfortunately, I ran that season.
Hey, we're the same way. We're not big fans of that type of racing.
No, I don't call that racing. I told everyone that from my first race there, but you gotta play the game sometimes in order to go real car racing. So I went over there and made a fan or two and bent every bumper we had in the garage or in the shop that year. But
you ran the modified there?
That's the main fun. Yeah, I ran that year. I ran for Hillbilly Racing, David and Susan Hill. I ran, the famous '79 car with Coors Light on the side. And, didn't make no friends, that's for sure.
I got dumped.
For some reason, they love that type of racing down there. I don't even consider it racing. We call it wrestling with cars down there. But who knows? I mean, they pack the place, and they love the drama down there. And like my brother says, these guys can afford to wreck their modifieds down there because they sell so many T-shirts. He said the line at the trailers after the race buying T-shirts is incredible.
Oh, it's something different, that's for sure. I mean, you're not alone. I don't call it racing. I think that's just maybe just a Winston-Salem area thing, because I don't necessarily like I don't know. I don't necessarily like beating up my race car. I like going at the end of the year and not having to replace everything, and like having a nice race car. It kind of pains me to see everything all beat up and bent up, but you're all right. Their fans are hardcore, and I don't think I've ever signed so many autographs after a 25-lap race and sold so many T-shirts until I went there to Bowman Gray, which I got to say was absolutely amazing, especially being, I think at the time I was 14 years old. And, they just, even had people come up paying you, trying to pay you or bribe you to wreck people, some people you definitely wouldn't expect to do that. But, it happens. It's a drama show is what I like to say, pretty much. I think everyone likes to go there because it's like a soap opera.
Did you have any wins there?
No, came close. I finished second one night, but it's hard to compete against those cars because we take our tour car there, and you gotta be cheated up to run there. You gotta have wide wheels. You gotta have a cheated up motor, a cheated up carburetor. You gotta prep tires. You gotta do everything against the rule book to do. Which, I mean, everyone always presses the rules in racing. I don't think it's racing if you don't, but I mean, it was out of hand. You have to have a custom built car to go there, and we couldn't do that, being that we ran the tour north and south full time. So they went there. Now I believe the '79 car is running just Bowman Gray from what I've seen, from what I've kept up with them. So I know they've got their car accustomed to the very minor Bowman Gray rules, which is awesome to see, because I like seeing teams I've ran for have success anything they race. So it's cool seeing David and them go there and have that success, because I know they really like running there. But like I said, it is just hard to run there with a tour legal car.
All right, Spencer, it's 10:30 now, so we're going to let you get going. We really enjoyed talking racing with you. Is there anything else you want to promote, or are you running the full K&N East Series? What's your next race, and what's your plans for the rest of the season before you go?
Yes, sir. This is my first full-time year in K&N. We're sitting third in points now after that win at Gateway, 13 points out of second. I believe we're 40 out of first. So championships, tall statement with 2 races remaining. We got Loudon for the Musket 250 weekend. So, Timmy will be there for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Goodale. So,
Timmy will bring you some pork roll to that race.
Hopefully so. I'll bring him a bully burger if he brings me a pork roll. But, we have it, and then we have Dover at the end of the year, or end of the K&N season. But we also have 2 truck races in mine and my father's truck, and the 11 All-Pro Tower Sealants Toyota Tundra at Vegas here in 3 weeks, and then we have at the season finale we're running Homestead Miami also in the 11 truck. So 4 more races this year for our season. So it's winding down quick, but couldn't do it without all the guys. Well, I say all the guys, all 3 of us in the shop, and all my sponsors, Tower Sealants, All Pro, Jones Demolition and Abatement, Mark Rhett and Terry Jones at Rhett Jones Racing, for them giving me the opportunity. Also couldn't do it without my father. He's my biggest supporter, and he helps me make some life changing stuff in my career. Helps me get to the next level, helps me choose some very important things in my career, as well as just everyone that's helped me along the way. There's so many people, down to probably just someone that's put a tire on at a go-kart race once. I always like to say I like to thank everybody. But
cool thing, when I was sitting with your father talking to him at Dover, he was explaining to me your family business, which was kind of out of ordinary. Pretty much it was a poultry business, but it wasn't like you guys don't raise chickens. You build the machinery that processes the chickens, like kills them and cleans them. This basically was what he was telling me.
Yes, sir. I pretty much always say that we have nothing to do with chickens. We might as well be an automotive shop or a chassis building shop, because we have CNCs, we have multiple welders, we have quite a bit of full-time employees, and so we're a real big machine shop. So have nothing to do with chickens, but we do, if that makes sense. So it's a real cool business, and everyone has to eat, and you got to cut up food somehow and get it ready to eat. So it's a pretty cool deal. Family business is always fun to help run too.
Well, if your grandfather invented the chicken nugget making machine, I tell him thank you very much for that, because we eat a lot of chicken nuggets over here.
Heck yeah, man. No, he didn't. But hey, there's I believe last time they did statistics, I think there's like an 80% chance if you eat chicken, they went through one of our machines. So, Timmy, I know you like some chicken and chicken related products. So there's an 80% chance Davis Poultry has been on the food you touched.
And that's what he was telling me. It was pretty amazing. He was telling me how even your machines are so sold over in Holland, and that there's such a demand for your family's machines that you guys make that he has to run 3 shifts. Like the shop is always open for business and making stuff. I thought that was pretty incredible.
Oh yeah, man, it's real cool. When the economy went bad, we went back to 1 shift, but we're back up to 3 full-time shifts, and I think we've nearly doubled our employee count since 2008, which is very cool. It's nice to see it back on the uprise, but old man's constantly traveling. Being, he's a real one-on-one person. He likes to be part of everything. So he does that. And, it's gotten to the point now where I'm having to go do installs and do service calls. So I don't mind it one bit. It's real cool to go see. It's just a totally different side, more the business side, which is something, I've always wanted to be a part of. But, racing's first. That's what I'm trying to do as a living. But, can't turn my back on family business either. That's something that's, that's always been there for him and for me. So it's real cool to be a part of that too. And especially as close of a bond me and my father have to share multiple things that we have in common, which is always really nice.
All right, Spencer, we'll let you go, but I do want to tell you that me and my wife Nancy will be in Miami Homestead for championship weekend, so I might be hitting you up for garage passes since you're going to be there racing. And maybe we can put an RPM podcast sticker on the side of your truck down there. That would be cool also.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I believe we're on Facebook as friends too, as well as Timmy. If y'all can get me the logo, I believe I know a guy that can print some up and get them stuck on there for even the rest of the year, hopefully before Loudon.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, we'll send Timmy up with stickers to Loudon, and then you can stick them on the car there. But Spencer, we really appreciate your time, and we're sorry we got a late start. We always blame it on Josh when we get a late start, so that was Josh.
No, we always blame it on Eric, but now we're going to blame it on me tonight, and it was my fault. I'm going to own up to it.
But Spencer, it was definitely cool talking to you, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to say, Spencer, thanks, man. I called you, and it wasn't even like 8 o'clock, and you said you'd do the show, and thank you for all you did for Bailey. You did a lot to get her started, and you're definitely a true mentor to her. She looks up to you a lot, and she follows you every week. And I'll see you at Loudon, boy.
Yes, sir, boy. Thank y'all for everything. Thanks for having me on, and always glad to help support y'all any way I can, man. I'm always a phone call away. Thank y'all for everything. Hopefully this isn't the last time I'm on y'all's podcast. I've had a lot of fun talking racing with all 3 of y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem. I thank all of y'all.
All right, have a good night.
See ya.
Still listening? Whoa, you have questionable taste. Well, while I got your attention, check out our website at therpmpodcast.com. And yes, there are pictures.
And welcome back, and we want to thank Spencer Davis for joining us. Spencer's a great friend of my brother's. They've been racing friends for a very long time. It's cool to see Spencer get a win in the NASCAR K&N East Series. Like he said in his interview, it's been 3 years since he won in that series, so it was cool that he got the win.
Is it the East Series or the Pro Series, or did it used to be?
It's the Pro Series East, K&N Pro Series East, and there's a K&N Pro Series West, and that was a combination race. He mainly runs in the K&N Pro Series East.
Okay, so what are did we know a name for when the ARCA combines? Is it going to be the Pro ARCA Series East?
Something like that, yeah, basically. Well, there's still going to be 3 separate divisions, and they're only going to combine for a few races. You know what I'm saying?
So
it's going to still
almost
be
like
the ARCA Series. There's still going to be the K&N Pro Series, and then there's going to East, and there's going to be the K&N Pro Series West, and then there's going to be the ARCA. But you can run all 3. You know what I'm saying?
I got. For a second, I was thinking almost like the IMSA style, where you run like the prototypes out there at the same time as the you know what I mean.
Well, that's basically what Spencer was saying, because remember he said in the interview that you can possibly win 4 championships if you go to all the races.
Okay,
you can win the K&N East Pro Series East division. You can win the K&N Pro Series West division. You can win the ARCA, and then you can win overall. So you can technically win 4 divisions
with the same car.
With the same type of car if you run all the races. You run the East, the West, and the ARCA. You know.
Okay, I got you. That would be.
And then in the end, they're going to have like a 7-race like shootout type thing where they all race together or something. I don't know. It's really something we got to pay attention to and see how it goes and what happens with it.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, Tim's getting his phone out.
All right, yeah, and we do want to apologize that we didn't broadcast last week. I was just too busy with the race cars. Josh was too busy with the pools. Tim was sitting at the computer ready to go.
I was busy waiting. That's what I was busy doing.
Tim was willing to go, so we can't blame it on Tim. It was definitely me and Josh. There was nights I could do it and Josh couldn't, and there was nights Josh could do it and I wouldn't do it. And
I was the one night I couldn't do it. I forget what night it was. Like, I can't do it that night. It was later on in the week, so it didn't really matter.
It was
I always
so
throw it
late,
out there. I always throw it out there that I think Josh and Tim should do it without me the nights I can't do it. But Josh doesn't even respond to that, so I guess he doesn't think that's a good idea.
Well, because it's just going to turn into our conspiracy podcast that we're getting ready for.
Which I'm well ready for. Speaking of which, Mountain Monsters is back on TV. New episodes. Check it out. What channel is that, Cheryl?
It moved from Destination America.
Moved from Destination America to Travel Channel. Check it out. Bigfoot is real.
Yeah.
Hashtag Bigfoot is real.
Okay.
So we just want to apologize that we didn't broadcast last week, podcast last week, I should say. But we're just not going to really talk about what happened a week ago in NASCAR and Bristol and all that stuff. We're just going to move on to this week.
Well,
the
Cup
Series.
I was going to say we can talk about the Truck Series real quick and Natalie Recker. Because, well, Scott, you, being in the towing business, maybe you can give us some insight as to what the hell happened when she was getting pushed by the tow truck.
You know what? I kind of blame that on the tow truck operator. He was pushing that truck so fast, and she was trying to turn the car into the pits, and he was just pushing her, and then she kind of had like overcorrect the truck not to spin out to the left, and he ended up spinning her up the track. But he had her sideways, and he kept pushing her. Like,
where was he looking?
On her side for that. I definitely think that was the tow truck driver.
I thought she locked up the fronts and that.
She was trying to. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But even if she did lock up the brakes, the tow truck guys gotta stop pushing sooner or later. Like, you know, I don't know. That was a weird deal. I've never seen anything like that in racing. It was a little crazy.
She
had a rough night at Bristol, to say the least.
My one favorite part was this part earlier in the race.
Inside. We're wrecked.
I have a feeling Tim's had those nights.
I've had those nights before, yeah.
Just to let everybody know, that was Natalie Decker's spotter calling that there was a truck on her inside all the way down the back straightaway, and she still came down like there was nobody there and wrecked. So they had a very frustrating night.
And if you listen to more of that audio, they're yelling at her that she needs to learn to listen to her spotter. And I don't think he could have been more clear. And I guess that what they're saying, I haven't seen it confirmed anywhere, but that the spotter quit after she
quit on the stand. No, he said a couple bad words and said, "I'm taking my S stuff off and I'm leaving them." And like we were talking in the break, is like me being a spotter. If I've sometimes you got to spot for people that aren't up to par, and I would never say the stuff that he said in the aspect of thinking I'm going to get fired for being the bad guy up there, just running my mouth. And for him to say that, comfortable enough to say that, like Scott said, that team must be frustrated with her for him to get away with that. Even the crew chief was yelling at her. I guess that was the crew chief. So I don't know what's going on there.
Now, I don't know if it was a bit of audio editing there, or not in that clip, but a bit later on where after they yelled at her to listen to the spotter, she's like a little tight in 2 and 3 or something like that. Like, did you not hear what he just said? Like, no response to that at all, just pretending that she didn't get yelled at and was trying to, I don't know. Maybe the radio wasn't working that great. I have no idea.
Did you hear how the crew chief responded to her when she said, "Oh, the truck's tight in the center and it's loose off"? And he's like, "Yeah, it's like that because you ripped the whole side of the truck off."
Oh, yeah, it is now.
It was a tough race for them, that's for sure.
I mean, she was turning some decent lap times, I think. She, before that whole thing. I mean, I'm not trying to defend her incredibly. I'm saying that she did that okay. Maybe she can qualify okay as a single truck out there, but beyond that, I mean, yeah, I think she's pretty. I do. But that doesn't make her a good race car driver.
Yeah,
keep modeling. Model all you want. I will gladly enjoy that. But, yeah, I don't get it. So, overall, that was really what I took away from the Bristol weekend. I know a lot of people were making a big deal out of it. It was the 20th anniversary of the whole rattle his cage garbage and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't really... they were just trying to hype it up. I don't think there was bad racing. I think the truck race was pretty exciting, and there you have it. So anyway, Scott, I'll let you move it on to our more recent stuff.
Yeah, so this week the Cup Series was off, so we have nothing to talk about them about. But their next race is Darlington with the throwback paint schemes, which people always seem to like. So we'll have more to talk about that next week. The Cup Series was off, but the Xfinity Series did race. I think it was at Mid-Ohio on the road course.
Road America.
Also ran up Road America.
Yeah.
And the trucks also raced on a road course up in Canada. I didn't get to see any of them. Saturday I was racing with my stuff. It was weird. The truck race was on Sunday, standalone Sunday for them because the Cup Series was off. It was pretty cool. But it's kind of weird that the Xfinity race before the trucks. It's usually the trucks race before the Xfinities. But Sunday I had a pretty cool birthday party to go to. I went to Charlie Kramer Jr.'s 77th birthday, and that was a big birthday for Charlie Kramer because he's famous for driving the 77 modified. So they had a huge surprise party for Charlie on Sunday, so I wasn't able to watch the truck race either. But we do want to give you the top 10 of the Xfinity race. So, Josh, if you want to give the people of the RPM podcast top 10 results.
So for the Xfinity race at Road America, the top 10 is Christopher Bell, Cindric, Reddick, Gregson, Hasgrala, Haley, Briscoe, Clements, Allgaier, and Custer. And for the truck race at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which was missing a driver, but we'll get into that in a minute, was Brett Moffitt, Tagliani, Rhodes, Creed, Hill, Sauter, Friesen, Chastain, Ankrum, and Lassard. Now, not that he necessarily would have gotten a top 10, but Tyler Dipple was missing from the truck race because he has been indefinitely suspended by NASCAR. And that all relates to a Canadian border that was the Canadian border crossing thing, or no?
It was in upstate New York. He got pulled over. He was doing 80 miles an hour in his car and got pulled over in upstate New York. From where he's from, I think it was even close to his hometown where it happened.
Oh,
it was
right,
kind of a weird. It was kind of a weird deal. He got pulled over for speeding, and the cops asked to search his car, and he said, "Sure, go ahead, search it." And they found a prescription drug, but the prescription drug wasn't in his name. And I don't know, NASCAR didn't like that. I don't know. I don't know. I drive Nancy's car all the time, and she's got.
Well, he was arrested for it.
Right.
So, I mean, I think NASCAR sees that there was an arrest, there was a controlled substance, and just as a covering their ass thing, they're going to suspend him until it gets sorted out. Now, he's going to have the chance to go to court, obviously, and, you know, like you said, maybe it was his crew guy's, you know, bag or something that was in there. And
Right.
you know,
I guess in NASCAR, you're guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until guilty. Yeah.
Yeah, and I NASCAR wants to keep a clean image, and I can kind of respect that, except for when you look at Brian France, and
they did fire him though, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, I think he stepped down because he knew that he was kind of effed, and his brother
just like Richard Nixon, right?
Yeah. Like, well, this is not going to end well, so I'm out.
We'll talk about that in the conspiracy theory episode.
But yeah, so we'll see where that ends up. And then, what was the other story about the other drug story? Crew chief.
Yeah, it was Matt Borland. Matt Borland's one of the cleanest, smartest guys in the pits, and they said what the drug that showed up on his test was in some type of diet coffee that he drinks. You know, it's almost making it sound like Jeremy Mayfield was right when that happened back to him, because he said that medication was in his allergy pills. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. NASCAR's got to get a grip on this, because, I mean, these people, they're to the point now they don't want to eat or drink anything. Like, you know, they're.
Well, that's one thing I'll never fail a drug test for is something in diet soda or coffee.
Well, Tim, you better be careful what protein shakes you drink, because there is the one kid failed for a pre-workout drink he was drinking. Tim, I hope that's not the same.
I don't
drink
pre or post workout, so I'm pretty good on that. And,
I just hope that wasn't the drink you used before your pre-workout. You know,
the only good kind of energy drink I drink is when we're driving home from the tour race would be Monster Energy drink. The coffee drinks, the Mean Bean coffee drink is the one I drink. It's the only. I was told it had bull semen in it, so I don't know if that feels
good. Josh will be ordering a case of that Monster Energy drink now. But that's what I mean. Like, you can drink like these Monster Energy drinks or any type of energy drink and not know 100% what's in it. And they said this drug that showed up in his test, in this diet coffee, is not even listed in the ingredients. So how would he know? You know, I don't know. They got to narrow it down a little bit to what drugs they're talking about. It can't be anything like over the counter and stuff like that. It's getting ridiculous, you know. But then again, the one kid took it pretty good that did fail for his pre-workout stuff. He said, "Listen, I'll go to the road to recovery just for an education, and I'll learn, you know, what to put in my body and what not to put in the body." He's not going to fight it or argue. He's like, "I'm not a drug addict. I took pre-workout to work out to be in shape to drive in NASCAR." He's like, "I'll go to the road to recovery program. Maybe I'll learn something. I don't care, you know."
But what? I'm sorry, Mayfield's thing was
he refused to go to that.
He didn't want to admit guilt to it because he's like, "No, I didn't do it." He didn't want that label.
Right. And this kid just said, "Listen, I'll just go for an education." And I think that was smart, because you notice the kids that did go, they're back racing within a month. Well, it's really no
Allmendinger
deal, you know?
was another one, right?
Yeah, it was a pre-workout thing, and he went and he was back racing in a month. The one kid didn't even miss a race because it was in the truck series, and they had a 5-week layoff anyway. He was done with the road to recovery program before his next race, and he was at the next race. He didn't even miss a race.
Do you think when you walk in the door of the road to recovery place, there's a picture of Jeremy Mayfield like this, going, "Don't be that guy"?
Yeah. But, you know, when all that Jeremy Mayfield went out there, nobody believed what he was saying. And now it's showing that these other guys are getting caught that don't do drugs. And now you're starting to think maybe Jeremy Mayfield was telling the truth, you know?
Except for all the stolen copper wire he had in his basement. That didn't happen.
He's got a recycling business. He's got to start somewhere.
I worked at Blues Drug Credit for 10 years. I know how many people got a recycling business in their basement.
All right, guys. So that's a quick NASCAR. We'll get back to NASCAR next week. We do want to talk about the Indy race, even though that was a week ago. The only reason we really want to talk about the Indy race, well, a couple of reasons. We love Pocono. It's local to us. It's only 3 hours away, and it's a race that Josh goes to every year and attends with his father. Unfortunately, there's a toxic relationship, as some of the drivers put it, with Indy cars in Pocono. There was another bad crash, unfortunately, on the very first lap. Josh, tell us a little bit about your trip up there and your day up there at Pocono.
Well, real quick, so obviously August 18th, IndyCar had been off for a few weeks, and, so I went to the Pocono race, and I had a wonderful time. But they actually raced again this weekend at Gateway, which is why the K&N series and Spencer was they were short on time. They ran up past their time limit. Which is, to turn around and make that trip was, I thought, a bit interesting for IndyCar, but they don't.
Isn't that weird too? They have like 3 or 4 weekends off, and then they jam 2 races right next to each other. You know what I'm saying?
And they're going from Pennsylvania to Illinois. Like, it's not even like an East Coast tour or something.
I'm having the same problem right now with my enduro racing. We went 5 weeks without a race. This Friday, we have 2 races scheduled on the same day between 2 different tracks. It's just like, why didn't one of the other tracks fill the gap? I don't know. Sometimes these racetracks only hurt themselves,
IndyCar is kind of known for shooting themselves in the foot, which is unfortunate. Now, the passes I had came with a scanner and the paddock pass, so we went around. We saw all the cars in the garage getting worked on.
Let's start. What time did you arrive at the track, Josh?
9 or 10, I think.
And the race didn't start till 2:45, correct?
Yeah. So we got to go in and check everything out, and we were able to get out of the paddock area before the line formed when they start kicking everybody out, and then it's like herding cattle through that tunnel. But it was what was cool was the TQ midgets had been racing there that weekend on a temporary 5th mile track.
Yes.
And so Ronnie Mullen was there, and his son Cole. Cole got a win, I think, Friday night, which congratulations to him. And Ronnie had been in the pits while I was there with my dad and live streaming, and we actually made it into his video. He went right by us and didn't even know it. So that was pretty cool. They had a lot of vintage cars there. They had some vintage modified, some cars that had even raced at Wall years ago, then others from Warren Grove, things like that. It's a really cool thing. They actually let them do a few pace laps, kind of like the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club does at Wall. So they go out for a few pace laps. We were in the grandstands by that point. It's a really great experience, and I know that they don't have a contract to be back at Pocono next year. I'm hopeful that they do. Now, I'll be honest, it isn't the most exciting race. I think it's a great experience, but
it's an event. You got to look at it as a whole, as the whole day. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, 100%. They have a lot of great stuff for the fans. Demonstrations and things you can check out. It's there's a whole autograph session. The line to get driver autographs was like I can't even describe how long this line was. I was actually tempted to do it, and then I saw the line and gave up. But it's the closest you're going to get to drivers. You can't really, without spending a lot more money, you can't get that same experience with NASCAR. And I really applaud IndyCar for making the drivers that much more available and making it that much easier to kind of get, in the midst of everything that's going on. It's a really cool experience. But when the cars get strung out, it's not the most exciting. There was more passing this year than last year, that's for sure. I wish IndyCar would do double file restarts more often.
Yeah, me too. I think that's something they can really improve their product with.
Yeah, but now one of my favorite drivers is Wickens, who was hurt very badly last year in that wreck in the first couple laps at Pocono. And this year we had an opening lap wreck in that same turn where some cars got together and Rosenquist ended up kind of getting into the fence. Not nearly as bad. Luckily, it didn't get as high. It didn't hit in the same angle, so he was okay. But yeah, it's scary to watch. And Wickens had posted.
What was the mood like in the grandstands when that accident happened? Was everybody like, "Oh my God"?
There was
kind
of an "oh crap" moment, and thinking that it was bad. But then when we saw everybody get out of the cars, it quickly got a lot better. Because everybody got out, walked under their own power. Really, the main concern initially was for Takuma Sato, who was upside down, and the car had a bit of fire on it. Now, Rosenquist, who had gotten up into the fence, they actually didn't get to him for a while.
They were the last one. He was the last one they got to, but they were worried about the car on fire, flipped over. Everybody ran to that one first.
Yeah, and I would like to. I'm guessing that they probably had radio communication and heard Rosenquist probably radio back that he was okay.
I know in NASCAR one of the signals is you put your window net down when you're okay, and we also do that in short track racing too. Mm-hmm. I guess with the Indy cars, because obviously they don't have a window net, their sign is they put their visor up on their helmet.
Right.
And he did put the visor up on his helmet, so there was a signal that he was okay. And go help the other people that might not be okay, and then get me later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think Hunter Ray even got out to try to help Sato out of the car, just because he's equipped with his fire suit and everything, which is so. It was kind of a mess. And it took a while because the fence got damaged again, and there was a lot of carbon fiber all over the track that needed to be cleaned up. They were actually going to let the teams. They were going to they brought all the cars into the pits so they could check tires for the carbon fiber to make sure that
Right.
Now something Wickens had said that the relationship was toxic and they needed to get away from Pocono, and. Just that it's, how many times do we have to go through the same thing before we make a change?
Yeah, but you know what? You can say that same thing about Indy. They wreck just as bad and just as often and just as hard at Indy as they do at Pocono.
I agree. I think Texas is incredibly dangerous. It's my favorite track to watch IndyCar at, but it can be dangerous. You touch wheels and go flying into the fence. Indianapolis, like you said, I mean, we've seen how many cars get into the fence. Hinchcliffe, when he had that suspension rod go through his leg. That was at Indianapolis.
Josh, I don't know if you know it because you were in the grandstands, but they did show a clip. I don't know what car it was, but they did show a clip of that little shark fin they have in front of them to deflect the debris, instead of the windscreen.
Right.
They showed that working. It did deflect a piece of carbon fiber, so it didn't hit the driver and went around them. So that piece did work.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's titanium. I mean, I guess it does something. I think you should have something more substantial than what that is.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But it was good. That little piece did. It was probably like a 2-foot section of carbon fiber coming right at the driver's head, and it did hit that little shark fin and deflect it away. So it did work.
It probably would have saved Justin Wilson, who was killed after getting hit by that nose cone at Pocono. Yeah, the thing is, they've had bad luck at Pocono with these incidents, but
and
I think
with the weather
and the weather, which NASCAR has had bad luck there with the weather. The main reason they got us out of the grandstands fast when that weather came in, because the NASCAR fan had been hit by lightning and killed a few years ago. There,
how many laps were left when they ended the race?
I think 72.
Oh wow, there was still a lot of racing left to go, huh?
Yeah. So they made 128 laps.
Okay.
So, but with that red flag that took nearly an hour, honestly, the race probably would have been over by then. And then something else I did want to talk about, but I'm going to bring up in a second here. But real quick, like we all agree that there are plenty of ovals that are just as dangerous as Pocono. It's just they've had the bad luck at Pocono. Yeah. And I just look. I like.
I tell you what, though, with the crowd that was on hand at Pocono, and like you saying, how much of it was an enjoyable day, and how long the line was for the autograph session, I think they will be back at Pocono.
Pocono definitely. They desperately want IndyCar to come back. We'll see where it goes.
Especially now they're only down to one race weekend with the Cup.
Yes, yeah. I think Pocono needs it. Their stands were pretty full. I mean, they weren't jam packed, but there were a lot of people there. There
was definitely a good crowd there. I did notice that on TV.
Yeah,
they need to have a Pocono open wheel weekend, modified in Indy cars there.
I would love to see the modifieds there, like a nice little 50 lapper or something like that.
That and keep the TQs too, because I think a lot of the TQ guys were there. Ronnie was there watching the race on Sunday. Yeah. So, I mean, you make an event like that and you get the crowds and then you get people spending on the concessions and everything else.
Well, that's why they invite like the vintage clubs there and the people like Ray Everham bringing their road course cars and all that stuff there. They said that car that Everham built with they call it the Ghost with the sedan body on. They said it did 196 miles an hour around Pocono.
Did you ever see that car?
Yeah, it's state of the art. The only thing on that is the fiberglass body, but it's state of the art. They say
that's a steel body. That's a regular. He bought that. That's like
I know, but that's the only thing vintage on that car. I think is a professionally built race car.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
They said he did 196 miles an hour.
One other thing, they had. After that incident, Hunter Ray and Rossi, they went to work on their cars during the red flag, which everybody knows.
Which I said, let them work on it, because now you just wiped out a bunch of cars. You're only starting like 23 or 24 cars to begin with on a 2.5
I think it was 20.
Track.
20 or 22.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's what I mean. Put them back together. Give them like a 1 or 2 lap penalty. I think they ended up giving them a 10 lap penalty, which was crazy.
The rules state minimum 2 lap penalty. And they decided that because these guys who were wrecked out on the first lap were going to try to get their cars back together, they decided a 10-lap penalty was the right thing to do, which is just asinine.
They on a 2.5 mile track, a 2-lap penalty is a 5-mile penalty.
Yeah,
they're 5 miles behind. Just give them a 2-lap penalty. Let them beg them to get their car back together, so you have some cars out on the racetrack. You know what I'm saying?
All they're going to do is help the case or whatever. And if they don't make minimum speed, then park them. Whatever, fine. You can still keep your other rules. Just
and if the other guys are worried about points and positions, their cars aren't going to be perfect. They're not going to win the race. They're going to finish towards the back anyway. At least let them be out there for the fans to see some race cars on the racetrack.
Yeah, I think there was only one other legit caution after that wreck.
Right.
The way that whole wreck happened was they went 3 wide on the Long Pond straightaway.
Which is crazy, because we're talking lap 1 of a 200-lap race. You know what I'm saying? So, and these are supposed to be professional race car drivers, and there was really no need for that wreck.
Yes, it was that combined with they wanted to win on the first lap, but at the same time, track position is so important in IndyCar because it's hard to pass. They don't have, they have their push to pass, but they don't have the DRS or anything like Formula One. So they wanted to get their positions right then. That way they could settle in for something better. And so Takuma Sato is on the outside, and we have some audio from his spotter.
Inside. We're wrecked.
I quit.
Now, I just wanted to have fun with that. But
I should ask Hot Pockets if he knows that spotter. We'll have to get him on the RPM podcast.
Yeah, but the one from the Natalie Decker spotter? Yeah, that'd be cool. They did say who it was, and it was a familiar name, and now I forget. But I think Frankie Kerr was the crew chief. I'm not sure, though. So it was a name I knew, Tim, the spotter. But anyway, but then Sato went to social media with his video in-car camera saying he never came down. Like his video looked like his hand stayed straight the whole time.
They did, honestly, because in every other angle, it looked like he came down just a little bit, but enough. And unless the car got sucked over somehow, his hands did not turn left. So I just wanted to have some fun with that audio. But
then again, he could have been straight, but his car could have been angled. You know what I'm saying? So it could have been going at an angle straight.
Right.
But even so, the guy in the middle of the 3 wide could have backed out. The guy in the bottom could have given him more room. It's not all his fault. 3 wide on the first lap going into the tunnel.
It takes 3 to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
all right, so give us the RPM podcast top 10 of the IndyCar race from Pocono. And, of course, you got to listen to Marco Andretti, because I'm sure he's not in the top.
All right. And then I'm going to go to Gateway after that real quick. So, real quick, Marco Andretti finished 15th. He was still running at the end, okay? just let it go. Actually, real quick, do you guys think that there's too much, nepotism in IndyCar? You have Herta, and Andretti. Who else was I thinking of? Ray Hall.
No, I
What do you
think
mean
it's
it's
good
cars?
to have family names like that in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. It's that star power.
Yeah.
You know, it gives the next generation, people that like Dale Earnhardt and then automatically like Junior.
I mean, I follow Marco because I was a fan of his father, Michael, and Mario. So of course I keep my eye on Marco. I just wish he would do a little bit better, and I'm sure he does too.
Well, I get I mean, I don't mind having the names in there, but I mean, if they're not performing, do you think they're just getting the ride because of the name,
in this day and age, as long as the cash is checked on Monday,
that's no different in any sport.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm glad they're out there. No, I'm glad they're out there.
But
I'm
mean,
fine with those guys
as opposed to bringing up a driver that could possibly win for you, would you rather put your kid in the car?
Well,
or would you rather get the win with a?
They might need that Andretti name for sponsorship, and I read somewhere that Andretti's talking about going 5 cars anyway, so they're talking about adding another car.
Okay.
No, I'm fine with Marco out there and the Herta kid and Graham.
I mean, there's been many big name people that have come and didn't make it, and they got over the years.
I mean, Sato's out there. Why can't they be out there?
So, all right. So for the RPM podcast top 10 from Pocono, Willpower after 128 laps gets the win. Shortened due to the wonderful weather out in the Poconos. Scott Dixon in second. Simon Pagano, Santino Ferrucci, Joseph Newgarden, Ed Carpenter, Sebastian Bourdais, Tony Kanaan, Graham Rahal, and Charlie Kimball. And real quick, if I can go back to this, and I'm going to bring you the top 10 from Gateway. Now, let's see. Where Marco Andretti finished 10th.
All right. He made the RPM podcast top 10.
Yeah, look at that. That's something to be proud of. Now, after getting all that hate mail, Takuma Sato gets the win at Gateway to kind of...
oh, did he really? That's a rebound there, Josh. That's the way to shut everybody up, because I know another guy that wrecked the week before and then came back this week and won. And so good for Sato.
I can't imagine who you're thinking of. Second was Ed Carpenter, Tony Kanaan, Santino Ferrucci, Simon Pagano, Connor Daly, Joseph Newgarden, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Colton Herta, and as we mentioned, Marco Andretti. I didn't get through all that race yet. It didn't look, again, to be the, once they get strung out, it's what it is, I still...
Hey, Josh,
Josh,
I just want to ask you this question. With Pocono up in the air, IndyCar being back, and you and your father going there the last couple of years under some weird race conditions and weird endings and everything, if they do announce like around Christmas time that they got the IndyCar race back, would you reorder tickets again, or would you sit out?
I think I would go again. I had a good time. I mean, look, it's a long day. I'm not going to lie. It's like 2.5 to 3 hours of driving each way. But the way I look at it, I'm hanging out with my dad. We're watching racing. We get to go see, these cars, talk to people. I mean, I can't think of anything that was bad other than the weather and the how long the red flag was.
I know we're trying to get off this movement, but how was the weather before the rain came?
Sunny, gorgeous. Yeah. It was a little hot maybe, but I mean, other than that, fine. Like there was a couple times.
Another thing too, if it wasn't for the wreck and the delay of fixing the fence, the race probably would have been over in time before the bad weather came in, right?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, outside of some other crazy wreck or something, happening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the race would have been complete or pretty darn close to complete by that time that weather came in. They ran a good show for the most part. I would definitely go again. I enjoy it. I really do. You have access that you don't normally get. You can walk right down, amongst the pit boxes and everything. You can touch the tires as they're, sitting there staged or whatever. It's a really cool experience, and I think people should go. And I hope that
they get the track food there.
I had a couple. I wanted a burger so bad. And where we're seated, for some reason, they only had hot dogs and like nachos.
When I took the girls there for a couple years ago, there was a lot of the circus type food. Scott, I looked for the pierogi trailer the whole time I was there because they used to have.
I tell you what, the last time when me and John Gasco went to Pocono to watch the Cup race, there wasn't pierogies. I even asked for them.
Wow,
yeah, they used to be the best there.
But I did have pierogies tonight at the Lakewood Blue Clothes.
Nice.
Oh, right.
Matter of fact, Mulligan's has anybody that wants to go after the races and likes pierogies. Mulligan's has really good pierogies.
Didn't Darien
All right,
just steal a bunch from Neil?
All right, so it's 11:26 p.m. So we're going to move away from the Indy, and we're going to move over to everybody's favorite section, the local section.
Did you want to do the top 10 for the K&N race?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so obviously we had Spencer Davis on, so he gets the win there. Derek Krause, David Gilliland, Sam Mayer, Parker Retzlaff, Ruben Garcia Jr., Jagger Jones. That's a cool racing name right there. I'm a fan of his.
IndyCar name. That kid should be racing IndyCars. That's an IndyCar name.
Jagger Jones, Colin Garrett, Haley Deegan, and Todd Souza. That's your top 10. Now, oddly enough, in 11th, there's another Takuma Koga. And so
I'll tell you what, you mentioned the third place, David Gilliland. It's pretty cool. He got back behind the wheel again. He's a retired Cup driver, so that was pretty cool that he got to race a little bit.
And a quick shout out to Max McLaughlin, who wrecked out on the first lap.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
me and Tim are fans of Max. We were big fans of his father, Mike. Watched him race modifieds for years, and Max is trying to make a name for himself. It's a shame he got caught up into a wreck on the very first lap.
Kind of a hard luck award there.
Yep, yeah. He'll get there. He'll get there. He'll be there sometime. He's a good wheel man. He can drive dirt, asphalt, just like his dad. So he'll get there.
Guys, we're moving on to the local section. Where do you guys want to start with the local section?
I'd like to start with Jimmy Blewett's accident, with the trailer.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I was just saying which one.
Jimmy had a tough weekend.
We'll get to the other one. I talked to him today.
We'll explain to everybody what happened, Tim.
Yeah. He came home from the races, and as everybody knows, Jimmy, he's working on that race car. The car was broken. He was fixing it. 2 o'clock in the morning, he's putting the trailer down, and something in the liftgate broke, cable, something in there, and it came down, and it caught him in his legs. Luckily, Charlie Spencer was there, who is a fireman, EMT kind of guy. Charlie knows what to do under those situations. Got Jimmy stabilized, got him in the car, and brought him to Jersey Shore Hospital. And by the time they had gotten there, I guess Katie called Stephen Reed's wife, who works there, and she made a courtesy call over there. They were waiting for Jimmy. They knew he was coming. They knew the situation. They got him right in and got him fixed. So first, Jimmy wanted me to thank the Reeds for that. And he was in there, and they did x-rays, and his ankle was broken in 2 spots.
I seen pictures of it. It's brutal.
Yeah, if you follow Jimmy on Instagram, the pictures are on Instagram of his injury. He came home. He was supposed to go to the surgeon today, but the swelling is still so bad they can't do anything for him. So he has to wait for the swelling to go down. He did want me to mention he got over like 200 messages on Facebook and with all the comments, and he says his phone hasn't stopped ringing in 2 days. He's okay. He thanks everybody for all their support, and he says his goal right now, his personal goal right now, is Turkey Derby. He's not pushing himself any sooner than Turkey Derby now. Me knowing Jimmy Blewett and Scott, he'll be in a car before Turkey Derby, but at least he's taking it that slow right now. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes. And that's the end of the trailer story.
Well, Josh, we'll never have to worry about our liftgate breaking on our race car trailers. I don't think we'll ever have a trailer that big to have a liftgate on it.
I always talk about racing family and how we're all, everybody's mad at it, like Scott and Elliott. Scott will be chasing Elliott around the pits on a Saturday night, and then next day on Instagram, there's a picture of Scott and Elliott sitting on Elliott's couch watching TV together. It's racing family. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if did you see that post that JC Duvall put on Facebook about?
Yes.
JC Duvall is an avid listener of our show, and 3/4 of the stuff he puts on Facebook, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea to put that on there or whatever. But he put a real quick thing in. I wanted to read it because it's always what I'm telling people about people that don't understand your racing family, and this really explains it. We all know each other, and we all have differences aside. After the helmets come off and the stadium lights go out, we're all family, men and women. It's never good to hear when accidents happen and people get hurt. I recently injured myself, and I know firsthand all the setbacks that come along with getting injured and not being able to work and provide for your family. in sports, we all cheer or boo our favorites and not so favorites, but we never get happy about bad news. So I thought that was pretty cool. That explains what we all do on a Saturday night, you know?
Yeah. I think it was really awesome that he put that out there. So I think he said he's wishing Jimmy a speedy recovery as well at the end of that.
You know, a lot of people know Jimmy as the villain at the racetrack. He's really not that type of guy. He really is a family guy. He's got 2 lovely children. He's a beautiful wife, Katie. The sad part about him getting hurt also, it was his birthday. It was his birthday yesterday, and they had a camping trip planned. I seen Jimmy all week at work getting his motorhome ready and cleaned up and stocked with food and toys for the kids. The whole family was going away camping. So, you know, his injury, you know, also put a stop to his family camping trip, you know. So we're all thinking about you, Jim, and we wish you well. And like me, my brother says, I know you're setting your goal as turkey derby, but you'll probably be getting some cast made up on your ankle. So it is his brake pedal foot. And Jimmy doesn't use the brake pedal much, so he might be back sooner than we think.
Prime example of Jimmy Blewett being friends. I spot for other people, and I spot for Eric Goodale on the tour, and Eric Goodale and Jimmy Blewett are like water and oil. They don't mix, and it's cost both of us many positions this coming year. And you know, people are like, oh, you know, what Jimmy Blewett? I'm like, yeah, Jimmy Blewett's my friend. I spot for anybody the same way. If that happens, I can't control what happens, you know, in a race car. But outside of the race car is different. So,
but in the end, we always blame the spotter anyway. So
at the end of the day, it's the spotter. When the car gets wrecked, it's the spotter's fault. When the car wins, it's the driver.
Mm-hmm.
He won.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of spotters take credit for the win too. All right, so moving forward,
Jimmy, check clears on Monday.
Jimmy, we wish you well, and hope you feel better, and we'll be keeping everybody updated on Jimmy's condition. We do want to move right to Wall Stadium. It was the 127-lap Cliff Krause Memorial Race. Very well attended. The crowd was awesome again, wasn't it, Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing crowd. I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row that you've pretty much packed the place. Three. Sorry.
Yeah.
Last week was the Pack the Track night with the demo derbies, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. So 3 weeks in a row, you've had great crowds.
Yeah, because the week before that was right after that article came out saying the track was closed, and everybody came out in force too. So, I mean, race fans, keep it up. You guys are kicking butt packing that place.
I wanted to mention one thing about the Pack the Track night. I saw people there that I haven't seen there in years. One example that Scott will get, Brian Brandle was there with his family.
Oh, my God.
Brian Brandle is a Farmingdale guy that where me and Scott grew up. His mother was actually our kindergarten teacher. And I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, I haven't been here since I was 8 years old. He goes, I've read so much good stuff on Facebook. This family night came up, and I told my wife, let's go. And they were ecstatic, and they're coming back. You know, and there were some other people there that it's been 2 weeks now that I forget, but there were other people there that haven't been there that long. My point being is that whatever Diane and her family are doing is working. It's bringing people back, and it's bringing them coming back. They're not just coming once and not coming back. They're coming back every time now. They're returning.
Right.
So it's working.
The racing was pretty good. It was a 127-lap race for the modifieds. There was only 4 divisions there, which kind of helps the show move along quickly too. It was
5 TQs, right?
Yeah, it was TQs, Legend Cars, Factory Stocks,
4 cylinders,
and 4 cylinders.
Yeah,
5. I kept forgetting the 4 cylinders there because they were after the modified race. So it was a pretty good show. It moved along pretty quick. Of course, the ATQ MA Midgets, they raced on the inner oval, which is kind of cool too for the fans to see that little track get used on a Saturday night.
I saw a few people posting saying they want to see them back on the big track, but I like them on the flat. Now they got their wings back and everything.
Yeah, that was a good race, but I tell you what, that 51 car, whoever that was, he smoked those guys, man. He won by like a half a straightaway. Josh, if you want to start looking up some top 10 results so we can get right into them.
I have most of it. I don't have the TQs on here for some reason. Our good friend Jeff Gravatt seems to have left that out.
While you're doing that, I'll do the food review. They had Cliff Krause's, some of his favorite foods, and from what the girls telling me, it was Bang Bang Shrimp, homemade macaroni and cheese, and what was the other one?
Like French dip or something.
Oh, French dip. were the three that they had.
Isn't French dip kind of cheating with a cheesesteak, though? Kind of.
I guess, yeah. Like
I mean, I'm just saying, if I go to a restaurant, let's say I go to Houlihan's or Quaker Steak or whatever, if I order a French dip or a cheesesteak, I'm kind of getting the same thing, right?
But they just give you like a bowl of like some type of.
I don't think French dip's got cheese on it, though.
Right? Yeah, you're right.
We're pissing Scott off. We're getting off because he hasn't done.
I mean, it is 11:37, but I do have a towing business to run tomorrow morning. But, yeah, the food must have been good because every time I walked by the concession stand, there was a good line for the concessions too. But yeah, Josh, if you want, we can start off with the top 10 for the Legend cars.
Yeah,
cars.
Yeah. Now the Legends had a good show. Let's see. They had 15 cars. One thing that was really cool about the whole night, and I don't know if they did it last year. I know the modifieds were 127 laps last year, but I don't think that the regular divisions were 27 laps last year. I think they were all 25. This year they made them all 27 laps.
Which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that was a really cool thing to do. You're adding 2 laps. It's not a big deal. You're not making an extreme long distance
just for some
race.
of our new listeners to know, Andrew Krause is Cliff Krause's son. Their racing number is number 27. This is where the 27 comes from. So 127 laps for the 27, and then all the other division races are also 27 for Cliff Krause's race team's race number.
Yeah.
And Diane did tell me at the funeral, like 27 stands for something else. It's like their anniversary date, like February 7th.
I think it was the date that Cliff proposed to her. There was a really great story about he hired a boat.
Yeah,
with
there is a really good story where the 27 number came from.
Yeah.
And that it is a special number in that family, so they want to make everything 27.
So getting back to the Legends, Kevin Nowak in that Herbie the Love Bug kind of paint scheme there gets the win.
He called it Herbie. To Victory Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think he went to Evergreen on Sunday and won again.
He races all over. I think he goes to Bethel, too.
Yeah, he's got a cool little setup. I walked by his setup. He's got like an enclosed trailer. He brings 2 cars with him, like a little cup setup. It's pretty cool.
Kids love that car. They all cheer. Yeah.
It's a really neat paint scheme. So then we have Sean Verwis, Mason McGee, Peter Bruno, George Tomko, Chris Gall, Joe McGrath, Joe Przyblinski, Rob Silver, and Jim Downey are your top 10. For the 4 cylinders, we had a little drama after, I believe, the heat races between Darianne McLaren and Nicole Rosano, which resulted in some fenders and bumpers and hoods getting bent, and then a nice altercation after that. So they were both sat out for the night, which brought us down to 14 cars. Neil Rutt III had a really good run going, but after some contact, lost the right front, and he was out for the night. He ended up 11th for the night there.
Was there contact with that, Josh? Because I just seen him sliding through the infield, and the right front was broke. I didn't know if it was just something that broke from fatigue or if there was some type of contact.
There was contact between him and Sal.
Okay.
Was that Sal Ligori? Or somebody.
I think Ricky Williams was in that car.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So.
9 car.
Yeah. I gotcha. So, so he was upset about it, but eventually calmed down. But yeah, so apparently there was some contact, and then that broke it, and then he ended up getting turned down in front of Ronnie, and yeah, so it was just kind of a mess, and he was upset.
Yeah, I'm not really sure who was driving that car. So I know Ricky drives it sometimes, and Sal drives it. I'm not really sure who's in it.
I see Ricky listed in here, so I don't see Sal. I think he was with something else that night. So anyway,
he was driving a factory stock too.
Yeah,
Sal was driving a factory stock.
Right, I gotcha. So the top 10 was Brian Osborne, Alonso Morales, Ronnie Mullen, Jeffrey Loesch, Ricky Williams, Mike Lavery, Brian Barbalacci, Bill Schwartz, Ryan Marr, and Deanna McLaren. Then for the modifieds, which is the big race, there were a lot of cautions. Some of it was kind of, just spins and a bit of messes. There was one incident Tim's going to want to talk about in a minute. Just run down the top 10 of that real quick. Eric Moriello gets the win. He kind of inherited the lead after an incident. Kevin Davison, Chris Andretta, Blake Barney, Zach Alsbach, Stephen Reed, Adam LaCicero, Kenny Van Wickle, Ricky Collins, and Roger Koss. Now, Tim, did you want to talk about that incident? Because there were a number of annoying cautions, car spinning, and then just parking it until the yellow came out, which frustrates me. Because if you do that in a factory stock, they just keep it green until you get going again. But if you're in a modified, they
yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I'm kind of tired of talking about it. So all the phone calls I got about it, but yeah, I mean, before I start to talk about it, pretty much the top 4 cars that were in that, if I remember right, was definitely Jimmy and Steven, the Eric Moriello and Andrew Krause, if I remember right. I think Andrew was behind 55 when the debacle started. Now, with me saying that, I have spotted for 3 of those drivers, Jimmy, Eric, and Andrew. They all know how I spot
Stephen Reed.
No, I don't have to because you're his boyfriend and you talk to him all week. He knows how I spot because you talk to him all week. You guys telling each other how great you are. So anyway, with that said, I'm not going to bash anybody. I'm just going to tell you what I saw and what I heard, and then you can take it from there. And it's not the first time this has happened to me at Wall or on the modified tour. It happened everywhere. But a car spun out in turn 2 on the bottom where they always do. He was down there. Myself, and other spotters around me, I've had spotters call me this week and say, I heard it. They positively, most definitely called yellow. I told Jimmy the yellow's coming out. The flagger started to put the flag out, put it back in. When he put the flag out, Jimmy slowed down. They never shut the lights off. And apparently, by that time now, I'm trying to keep Jimmy from getting spun out. I did not see the flagger pull the flagger back in. The lights were definitely green from the replays that I saw and all the stupid memes on Facebook from all the detectives that are out there. The lights were on, but it was called yellow from either the tower or somewhere else. It was clearly called yellow. The flagger put the yellow out. In my mind, the yellow was out. Stephen Reed did a hell of a job from trying not to get into Jimmy. He got pushed in from behind. It wasn't Stephen's fault. And I'm not a Stephen Reed fan by any means, and everybody knows that. It was not his fault. He got pushed in from behind. Eric did a hell of a job and got to the bottom. After that was it. Our crew chief, Rob Ornsby, did come over the radio and tell me that I called the caution too early because the green lights were out. But he doesn't wear a race here. I told him that the yellow was called and the flagger put it out. If he pulls it back in, whatever happened in that split second, why he pulled it back in, I have no idea. So in my mind, the yellow was out, the green lights were left on. So you want good?
So just to clarify, when you heard yellow, you relayed that to Jimmy, or did Jimmy have a separate where he was listening to the tower?
Jimmy
and you?
Does have a radio with that will and can scan the tower.
Okay.
If he had that particularly on last night's occasion, I don't know. Now then again, if somebody else is talking on the radio or something, they don't always hear. That's not foolproof. You know what I mean? That they can hear that guy.
Right. I was just trying to clarify who heard what or said what. So, but you did hear, and then you relayed it to Jimmy, and then that's when he started slowing down.
He said he slowed down when he saw the flagger put the flagger out for however long it was. He's been racing long enough that you can tell the reaction of the flagger when he's got it in his hand. He's going to put it out. You know what I mean? Apparently, he put it out and pulled it back in.
Okay.
What was going on the racetrack itself to cause them to even think about putting a yellow out?
There was a car spun out of turn 2 on the apron.
Okay.
So this leads me to say get rid of the flaggers and let it all be controlled by the tower and the lights. So the tower can call the yellow.
A lot of tracks that we go to, I was telling Scott this today, that a lot of tracks that we go to now, the controls for the lights are in the tower. Now, I don't know how Wall still does it. I don't know if it's down on the bottom or it's up top.
I think it's still on the bottom, but the tower does have a button for the red light.
Okay. The yellow lights were never thrown from the replays that I saw. until
Tim,
after they were together.
Did you notice on the track that car that was spun on the apron coming out of turn 2, did he start moving to maybe make them change their mind about throwing the yellow, or was he still sitting there?
Oh, after the fact, I don't know. I was more concerned about what was going on. Even though they said throw, they called the yellow. Now, for the last 3 weeks, we've been having the discussion, and in the drivers' meeting, they're screaming, "You listen to the receiver, listen to the receiver, listen to the receiver." So I listened to the receiver, and now it's a problem. So
and not only are they been saying at the drivers' meeting, listen to the receiver, they've been checking our receivers to make sure they work. They have Alan Brenner walk down the grid while we're lining up in the pits, and he'll say, "How many fingers do I have up?" And you got to tell him how many fingers he has up.
Just so Alan Brenner knows, I'm sure he'll watch this and he's listening. When you do that, Alan, make sure you say the car number, because I'm sitting in the grandstands. I can't see what car you're talking to, so make sure you say 66. How many fingers are?
Well, he does that in the pits. He'll say 09. How many fingers? They have been checking the receivers to make sure everybody's wearing one and that they're working. So that's something that the track has been policing pretty good lately. It was a weird deal. The only other thing that I think Jimmy might have done differently, because it was just a spun car coming out of turn 2, and he did see the yellow on the front straightaway. Sometimes you can just keep your speed going until you get to turn 1 and then slow down there. You don't slow down on the straightaway, you know what I'm saying, if there's no wreck right in front of you. Yeah. It was a weird deal, man, because I started walking up to the grandstands from loading my race car up, and I'm like, oh, cool, Jimmy's out front, man. He's got a hell of a lead, man. He's flying. Next thing I know, they're all wrecked on the front straightaway. And I'm like, what the heck just happened, man?
Well, yeah, and then all the spotters, we're all I don't want to name any names because that's not cool, but there were spotters right next to me. Go, what happened? They called the yellow. There was one of the spotters he was irate because he told his driver that they called the yellow, and I guess he got yelled at on the radio too, because it's always, at the end of the day, it's the spotter's fault. But yeah, it was a weird deal. It was the perfect storm. Jimmy Blewett was leading. Stephen Reed and 31 are behind him. It was just a perfect storm for people to.
It was shaping up to be a hell of a fight, and then it ended up being a hell of a wreck.
And then Jimmy's car wasn't terribly bent too bad after that. We came back out, and ended up getting another thing on coming out of turn 2. Somebody spun out and collected them and ripped the rear out of the car, so that we were done.
Oh, that's what broke. Okay, I saw him floor it and spin around. I thought he was just going to keep going, but then that was it. I didn't realize how much had been broken on there. And then I think Andrew ran for a bit longer, but then broke a timing belt, I think it was, and that was the end of his night. So I mean, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. I've had I'm sure we've all had some incidents where the tower was either not clear or things got confused. But I say get rid of the flaggers. We don't need them. It's hard to see the flaggers anyway. And if you're going even faster than the factory stocks and a modified, it's harder to see the flagger.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it. There's no answer for what happened there. There was a delay between when the guy said throw it, yellow, him putting the flag out, why he brought it back in. Did he bring it back in because he knew he forgot to shut the lights out? Or, did he bring it back in because he was told? I don't know. That I can't answer.
And
I don't know that.
You heard him say put the yellow out, but you never heard him say take the yellow back.
Yeah, nothing was ever said.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. Once you call yellow, yellow's out. Yeah, you gotta stick with it. You got to stick with it, then line them back up, and go again.
I'd even rather them go up. Our mistake. We shouldn't have thrown that, and then whatever. Because worst case. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go. I'm good.
I would say worst case, you re-rack and have a restart and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Now to the common fan that was in the grandstands and didn't hear the yellow was thrown, I could understand that they were pissed, and anybody's always looking to blame Jimmy for something. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't help the cause any.
But people are saying on Facebook to Jimmy's defense, why would Jimmy slow on the front straightaway when he has the lead? Why would he want to lose a lead? You know what I'm saying? It made no sense. He must have saw the yellow, and his spotter called yellow. That's why he slowed down,
Yeah, so, I mean, it was an unfortunate incident, but...
And like I said before, they've been screaming about the receiver. People ask me, why didn't you wait till the yellow lights came out? I go, because there's 3 factors in there. They've been screaming, listen to the receiver, do what the receiver says. So there's one. 2, the flaggers got the flagger yellow, and 3 the lights are on. So you got to go with 2 over the 1. Do you know what I'm saying? And it was just an ugly deal for whatever the reason. I'm sorry that it happened, and what are you going to do? I'll move on to the next race, and at the end of the day, it's always the spotter's fault. If you want to blame me, I sit in turn 1 every week. Come down and tell me I suck. If if you want to have text Scott like Stevie Reed does and tell me I sucked, and
he just asked me what happened, and I told him, and then I started making fun because you make fun of me when I wreck. So it was your turn.
Yeah, you.
All right, Josh. Top 10.
It so happens Scott wins, and I get blamed for causing an accident on the same night.
Go ahead, Josh. The RPM podcast top 10 for the modifieds.
Oh, I already did that.
He did that.
I did. Okay.
I will give you the top 10 for the TQs, though. That 51 car, that was damn fast. Jeffrey Sutton, Buddy Slode, Ryan Tidman, Joey Bailey, Kyle Taraska, Jeff Cote, Richie Davidowitz, Joey Payne, Cole Mullen, and Mark Yoder. Now, I will say, I thought Kyle Taraska was going to have that. He was leading most of that and kind of got shoved out of the way a little bit and dropped back quite a bit. But, I say quite a bit. It was back to 5th. But it was a pretty good race. And that 51, like you said, was damn fast. So
yeah, he was quick. He had him covered.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I have for that. Now we'll head into Scott's night, I guess. I'll give the top 10 for the factory stocks. Some guy named Scott Riggleman gets the win, followed by Nick Kilmer, who probably has a few new tire marks on the side of his car. Tim Majak, Mike Montano, Elliott Wall, John Carpenter, Anthony Pancoast, Sal Ligori, Teresa Collins, and Nancy Riggleman.
Wow, and Nancy with a top 10.
Yeah, she got a top 10 last week. That's 2 top 10s in a row. She actually got 9th in the 50 lapper last week. Just one correction on there. It wasn't Mikey Montano in the car. It was Shannon Monjo driving that car this week.
Oh, okay.
Mikey was actually away with his son with hockey. His son's a real good hockey player, and Mikey's a real good hockey dad with that. And he's going to be missing a couple races now to go do the hockey thing with his son. So it was actually Shannon Monjo driving that car. It was a good night of racing. Like we said before, I made a last lap pass, so I was happy that we had the extra 2 laps for the 27 laps instead of the normal 25 laps.
I mean, you guys were still technically side by side, kind of. You just had it. You were edged out in front when you crossed the line, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard a driver say, "If I had one more lap, I would have gotten one"? Yeah. Well, I guess the racing gods gave you the extra lap, so.
But they also took it away from me too, because earlier in the race I had them pass, and I had them pass going into one, coming off at 2, and the yellow came out, and they put me behind them on the restart.
That was I think that was the nasty wreck with. That
was the big wreck with Matt in the 3 car. He took a pretty hard hit,
Yeah, I think who was Malachaka was that? In the 3. He was a little all over the. I don't know if he was looking in his mirrors or not, but then I think Shannon got in and cleaned him out, and then Bartone and Bowers got to pile into that, and both of those cars caught a lot of damage on the front end, which I feel bad for those guys, but I mean, I don't know. I think that it probably could have been avoided, but at the same time, wrecks do happen, so it was kind of.
I think the move of the night for you, Scott, was when you were going into 3, and you usually, I always say you're too nice to those guys. Like, there's holes you can get into that you just don't get into because you don't want to get involved in the nonsense. And you were going into 3 that one time, and you slammed it down in front of that. I think it was a 74. I think it was
in front of Tim. It was time to do it though. I was on the outside of Tim for a very long time.
I'm thinking to myself, I go, Uncle Scott, he wants to win this one bad because he just closed the door on that guy.
I will say, it looked a little more aggressive than normal.
I knew I was running out of laps because not like you, Josh, but I look at the flagger and I seen 2 to go, so I knew I only had 2 laps to go. I still look at the flagger, so I think we still need a flagger.
I don't trust him.
And the problem, the line that Nick in the 52 was running, he was kind of running that half a lane line off the bottom, so he was running. It was hard to pass him on the outside because he was already like up a lane. You know what I'm saying? So I would really have to go high on the outside, but he was leaving the bottom open. So I said, the only way I'm going to get around him is I got to get in front of the 74 and get down low under the 52 and pass him. And it worked out.
Good. I mean, it was exciting because I was going to make a nice comparison. Well, actually, I still can I mean, Scott and Stuart Friesen have a lot in common. One win and a bunch of second-place finishes this year.
But you know what? It's really not a bad thing at Wall Stadium to win late in the season if you're racing for points, because you can knock off seconds and thirds and gain a lot, get a lot of points, and it helps you because everybody else is running winning features, and then they can't start higher than fifth, and if you win more than three, you can start higher than ninth. So
you're just racking up points in second there.
Yeah, I'm racking up points, and I'm getting decent starts because I'm starting ahead of the feature winners. But now I got the feature winner, so now I'm back in the mix with the handicap deal too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm telling you, my car's been running great the last 3 weeks, and finally the race went the way I needed it to go, where I can get a win. You know.
Well,
it was very popular when the whole grandstand stood up.
I tell you what, man.
How's it feel to win in front of a crowd like that?
I tell you what, when I pulled down on the track, I said, "Oh my God, this place is packed." And then I forget about it. I put it right out of my mind. I like doing the wave lap and seeing everybody waving back.
They all had to light it up.
They had the lights again, but they were all white this time. I think they were left over from Star Wars night or something like that.
We got a few red ones too.
Did you?
Yeah.
So I noticed a lot of white ones, and I do like doing the wave lap. I'm like, wow, this place is packed. But once the green goes, I forget about the grandstands, and then I forgot all about how big the crowd was. And when I pulled up into victory lane and got out of the car and the cheers, man, I was like, oh my God, man, I never got cheered so loud in my life. Yeah, and then they're like talking about like I haven't won in years there, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I won last year, but the thing was I won at the beginning of last year, and then it took me this long to get a win this year, so it has been a little while.
Well, Mark Martin said that one time after he won after a long dry spell. He said something like they really cheer for you like that because they expect you to win more.
Yeah.
You know, it's a compliment.
And you thanked a lot of people, but you didn't thank the RPM podcast.
And I forgot to mention Cliff Krause too. But they only give you such short time down there and to try to get everything in. And I wanted to make sure I thanked Timmy Steffen because, you know, he helped straighten that car out when it got wrecked.
Your car has definitely run better since he's done that. Do you think that car was bent a little bit before he did that and you didn't realize it?
No, it actually started running. It was actually running real good that night because you got to remember that was the triple races. And I had, I think, a second and third in the first two triple races, and the car was running really, really good. What we found before the triple races, I had a bad ball joint before the triples, and the A-arm bolts were a little loose. So, like, the A-arm was flopping around. Once I tightened that A-arm up and put a new ball joint in, that car was fast again. So I think the beginning of the year, I just had a bad A-arm on the car, like where the bushings were loose and the ball joint was loose. And once I fixed that A-arm, the car was good. And then everybody's saying, oh, the car's so much better since you wrecked. And I'm like, it was actually good the two races before that because I finished second and third, and then I wrecked, you know?
Well, I mean, it was an exciting race. After that one incident, there was some fluid that was down in turn 4 that took a little while to clean up, and then who was it in the 22 that was leaking trans fluid, I guess, and then they had to really put Speedy Dry around the track.
Yeah. I mean, they dumped some Speedy Dry out on. They needed that much.
But they like using Speed Dry there. They like it.
Yeah, and then if you watch too, in the beginning of my race when we went green again, I had him beat going on the one on the outside, but I was in the Speedy Dry. I got the car sideways, and then I stayed out there for another 5 laps on the outside of Midget, and every lap the outside was getting better and better because the Speedy Dry was clearing off.
And they had the sticky stuff down.
Yeah, and he had the sticky stuff. So it took a while for the Speedy Dry to get off because now that's stuck in the sticky stuff too, you know?
Yeah.
And the outside was good.
Do they tell you every week, like in the drivers' meeting, we put sticky down or we didn't?
No, they don't. I usually tell they put the sticky stuff down when there's a big modified race. A lot of times I just ask Alan, and Alan says there's no rhyme or reason to it. He said the big factor is the weather. You got to be able to put it down 24 hours before the race. And if it's any chance of rain or if it's raining 24 hours before the race, he doesn't put it down. He says it comes down to like what's the weather like Thursday and what's the weather supposed to be like Friday.
I will say in the modified race, there were some times when there was some good side-by-side racing with those guys. And
it works. It works. Yeah.
I was impressed.
It's improved the racing.
I wonder if they should do it on the flat part for the TQs.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's just a thought. You know, it can't hurt, right?
With that all said, I wanted to mention some. Scott said there was a lot of people there this weekend. Felix actually showed up at the races.
I saw Felix.
Beth and Pride Connor were there.
Oh wow!
these people that haven't gone to the races in years, and that MMA fighter, you got to give him. I bet you he bought two, at least 200, if not 300 people with him. So that helped the crowd a lot. You know that guy's name, Scott?
Yeah, it's Nick Catone. He's out of Bricktown. He's a UFC fighter, and he owns Nick Catone's gym, MMA gym over in Bricktown. Yeah, I noticed a ton of people wearing his shirts and stuff like that.
I saw that, yeah.
Besides at the end where you guys were lapping him, I mean, for the first time ever really being in the car, he didn't do horribly. Like, I've seen a lot worse. He just someone's got to sit him down and tell him when that move over flag comes out, you got to kind of stay on the bottom of the racetrack. But he'll get there. I was impressed by how he did, and hopefully he keeps it up if he brings that many people with him. God bless him. Come on back.
Yeah, absolutely. I did find some audio from Tim talking to Jimmy.
Well, here we go.
inside. We're wrecked.
But that's the funny thing. Jimmy wasn't wrecked in that incident. He actually came back out, and he still had 35 laps, and he was putting on the Jimmy Blewett show, coming right up back through the field. And unfortunately, Robert French got caught up with a car in front of Jimmy and got loose. And Jimmy had that split-second decision to either stop or try to squeeze his way in between the spinning car and the wall, and he went for it, and he almost made it through. And in the last minute, Robert French's car just rolled back a little bit and caught him in that left rear wheel and knocked the rear out of the car.
Yeah, going back a little before that, on the restart, prior to that, Jimmy Blewett was on the outside, and in front of him was the French kid.
Yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, well, this French kid is going to get a lesson here because he needs to get out of the way, or he's going to get out of the way. And I told Jimmy, like, patience with this kid. And Jimmy didn't spin him; he spun on his own. And
he spun on his own. Yeah. But he was running good on the outside.
He did. I thought this is going to be ugly.
His eyes lit up when he see Jimmy behind him. He's like, I gotta go, and he was going. He was running good. Yeah.
That was good.
All right, Josh. Let's move on to Bridgeport through their top 10, the RPM podcast top 10, the New Egypt RPM.
All right, let's
top
see.
10.
New Egypt.
There's a couple quick stories I want to tell from.
Let me get the Sunday series.
I want to hear about the Charlie Kramer party.
Well, I'm going to go with the Sunday series first. So they raced again. I did have an email from that I missed it for last week's show because we didn't record. But anyway, so the World Formula Microstocks: Bob Wagner, Ryan Baxter, Brian Russell, Josh Barry, Richie Tazinski, Mike Fox Jr., Ashley Tyler, Joe Gary, and Dalton Riviera. The Modified Microstocks: Tom Irvin, Mike Brennan, Josh Berry, Jim Van Dyne, Mike Fox Jr., and Ashley Tyler. The Senior Champ Carts: Mike Brennan, Mike Berner, Jack O'Connor, and Joe Parker. The Junior Champ Carts: Joe Mingorio, Will Cloud, Steve Puglisi, Eric Zank, and Alex Gratz. I'm terrible with this. I'm sorry. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, message me, please. Sportsman Blue: Justin Teresa, Aiden Spencer, Alex Riggleman, Aiden.
No, that's not right.
I know. I'm just saying. Aiden Gretz, Chevy, Remini. Sportsman Red: Darren Krantz, Howie Conk Jr., Alexis Riggleman. There you go. He got it right. Kevin Davison Jr., Bailey Riggleman. The 206 series: Mike Berner, Mike Brennan, Kerry Irwin, Kevin Mee, and Dalton Rivera. The Kids Carts: Kellen Okerson and JC. And they even said congratulations to Scott on his factory stock win.
Yeah, Robin Irvin came in and said that was the best.
I want to mention the Okerson kid. That's Chaz's son.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny watching the little kids. He come down on the track first. He's only been doing it like 3 weeks. The first time he came down the track so slow, I kept thinking the thing stalled. He was going so slow. And now this past Saturday, he was out there. He worked that go-kart for all it was worth, sideways off the corner and everything. He really has come a long way in 3 ways, and I'm glad to see that future of the racing. He's having fun right now. So
does he have 99 on his cart?
It's a red go-kart. The numbers are so small on them. I don't even know if they even have numbers on them. That's a good question. I'll have to look. I didn't pay that close.
If it's a red card, I wonder if it's one of Kevin Davison's sons.
Yeah, I think it was because Kevin moved up to where the girls race.
Okay, maybe it's Kevin
most definitely, yeah. I would bet money that it is, yeah. Yeah.
Now, I got another email from Chris Schwartz for the Garden State Quarter Midget Racing Club for their Friday night lights results from the 23rd. So the rookie red A main, Bo Loesch, Case Janey, Dexter Niemi. The senior animal A main, Ryan Coulthau, Zach Leonardo, Brandon Sullivan, and Matthew Kovacs. The junior Honda A main, Chris Buffalino, Jake Mullen, Mason White, Anthony Kane, Ryan Patterson, and Cole Farris. The senior Honda A main, Jackson White, Brandon Sullivan, Braden Janey, Matthew Kovacs, Thomas Schwartz, Justin Farris, Danny Shank, Shannon Schwartz, and Gianni Monteleone. The heavy Honda A main, Justin Emmons, Zach Leonardo, Ted Olfsky, sorry, I'm butchering that. The light 160 A main, Ryan Coulthau, Brandon Sullivan, Thomas Schwartz, Chris Buffalino, and the heavy 160 A main is Justin Emmons, Ted Olfsky, Zach Leonardo. Yeah, you got to start spelling these names phonetically for me because I'm terrible. But other than that, so that covers that. So let's move over to New Egypt Speedway, the Central Paint Ladies and Moose Lodge night.
Is this the weekend night or the Tuesday night?
This is this Saturday night, the 24th.
Okay.
And they have
this was the Brett Deo show?
No, Brett Deo show was on Tuesday night.
Oh, okay.
So I have feature, and feature. So we're just going to go with this. Bill Leitka in the 310 takes the win. Mick Search, Brian Spencer, Billy Roble, Doug Debray, Marty Durr, Joe Reed, Dennis Seeley, Chris Felber, and Todd Deege. So we know that was the Outlaw Stocks. Now that we know some names. The second feature, Ryan Heim, Jim Hausworth, Steve Davis, JT Trzynski, Art Lytle, Mickey Kessler, David Burns, Joseph Brown, Will Dupree, Bob Lineman, and Will Trensky. Now the third feature, Billy Pouch Jr., Cale Ross, Blaine Braceland, David Van Horn, Davey Sammons, Billy Osmond, Danny Book, Brandon Grosso, Mike Butler, and Ryan Cratchen. And the last feature, we have Kevin Borden, Nick Van Wickle, Steve Hicks, Ryan Simmons, Howie Finch Jr., Eric Palmer, Ryan Krasinski, Joe Toth, Anthony Tramontana, John Mayer. So he'll tell you that your body is a wonderland. It's a terrible joke. I'm sorry. And Bridgeport, the Scout Night, and with Mass and Powder Puff. Okay, first feature, Jeff Geiges, Andy Best, Rick Dieva, Rick Stife, Eddie Wagner, Tim Tanner, Scott Frack, Joe Hagel, Tom Carberry, Jason Dunn. The second feature, Tommy Erico, Travis Hill, Eric Corman, Matt Peck, Bobby Brackall, Tom Sherby, Ernie Miles III, Scott Marr Jr., Danny Bukafuska, and Jonathan Swift. You guys just love watching me struggle with these names. I know what it is.
I just want to mention real quick, that was Scott Marr Jr. He raced factory stocks with us, Josh. That was his first top 10 ever in the third sportsman race. So congratulations to Scott Marr.
Yeah, he was fun to race with.
Yeah.
Other than that one night that I took him out because he came down on me. he came right down on me. And I apologized, and we were all good. So then I'm going to guess this is the modified feature here. Ryan Watt, Billy Pouch Sr., Tommy Beamer, Stan Frankenfield, Neil Williams, Jim Britt, Wade Hendrickson, Dominic Buffalino, Richie Pratt Jr., and Dave Shirk. That's your top 10. So now that we got that covered, I think that covers most of the
You never
results.
mentioned what next week is at Wall Stadium.
I don't know what it is.
I do know what it is. It just want me to say it.
It's Labor Day weekend. I know that. What do they have going on?
Country night at Wall Stadium.
Ooh.
It said on the back. It said country night and dollar hot dogs. So
Eric Brennan will come up from North Carolina.
The dollar hot dogs are back. So bring an extra.
And this isn't really local. This is an upstate race. I wanted to mention. They're having Maynard Troyer Memorial Race at Spencer Speedway this Friday. And the one thing that caught me on the eye here, of course, everybody knows Maynard Troyer was famous for his number 6. So it's $6,000 to win. It's a 60 lapper. And they're giving away, they're saying TA3 Troyer chassis worth $6,000. So what they're doing, they're giving one away, but the way they're doing it is pretty cool. Say there's 23 modifieds that show up to start the race. They put numbers 1 through 23 in a hat, and you randomly draw. So if you pull out 7, who's ever starting 7th wins the chassis.
Oh, no, so where you start, not where you finish.
Maybe where you finish. I don't know. This says $6,000 TA3 chassis from Troyer Manufacturing, random draw of the starters. So I'm assuming it's where you start. Or it might be where you finish, where you start. I'm not sure, but it says of the starter. So if there's 24 modifieds, you got a 1 in 24 chance of winning a brand new modified chassis. How cool is that?
That's not a bad chance.
Another thing, if you saw LFR is doing, if you win a race now and you post it on social media and you hashtag LFR, they give you, I think, a $500 gift certificate.
Yeah, which is pretty big deal.
Yeah, if 7 LFR cars win in one weekend, that's
$3,500 are
giving away. Yeah.
Look at Scott doing math.
The other stipulation is you have to have the LFR stickers on your car, which is, I'm sure everybody's
because.
But how little effort do you have to put in, on that end?
There's cars that were built by quote unquote Fury that were sold under the LFR banner.
Right.
And now Fury and LFR are separated companies, and some guys have LFR car now with Fury stickers on them, or vice versa. It's kind of like a silly situation, but something that's got to be worked out here.
Well, I was just saying
it's
that,
like
if you have it.
It's like buying a GMC truck and putting a Chevy grill on it, right? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like.
It's the same part, and yeah.
It's the same thing, but yeah.
But on the other hand, this is where competition is good for the racers, because now with this competition going on, if there wasn't such a tight competition going on between the chassis manufacturers, LFR wouldn't be offering this $500 to every LFR customer winning a feature race. This is where competition is good for the racers as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's going to make everything better. Everybody's got to give a better deal now to get the customers, so it's going to work out for the racers,
I just love that. I mean, if you have that and you win, all you have to do is post. And then boom, 500. I wish I could make money when we post this damn show.
Yeah, speaking about posting and hashtagging, people from Wall Stadium need to start putting that besides the RPM podcast hashtag, they got to start putting that when the NASCAR doing my home tracks, my whatever it is, my roots or whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I don't think Wall Stadium's participating in that because we don't have the sign or anything like that.
But they do. But they have responded to it because they have said things on the Cup races about Wall Stadium because of that. Yeah. And what do you call? I thought I saw an article where the Truex kid that races at Wall. He's the official My Roots, My Track guy.
I think it's weird because there's part of a NASCAR, like you have to be NASCAR sanctioned, and I'm not sure that the modified tour race counts as sanctioning.
It's no, you don't even have to be NASCAR sanctioned for that because I won that Big Diamond and they're not NASCAR, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I won a Big Diamond and I was like, it was pretty cool. I was like one of the first ones to be on that. Thing with the sign and everything. Yeah. They weren't NASCAR. The way I read the sign, it's more of like an NBC Sports thing.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it said more NBC Sports on it than it did NASCAR on the sign that I was holding.
When you post your pictures from Wall Stadium, I think it's My Track, My Roots, or My Roots, My Track.
Something like that. I'm going to hashtag and put it on it. But if you ever see that hashtag on Facebook, click on it because it goes to every picture, like everybody that's won across the country. It's pretty cool seeing all different race cars on there and stuff, All right, guys. Well, Charlie Kramer's birthday party.
You want to hear about that.
I was very fortunate to get invited to Charlie Kramer
It was an A-list place. I saw a lot of high rollers there.
Yeah, it was a lot of old-time racers there, a lot of old-time race officials, track photographers, you name it, announcers, they were all there. Big presence by the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club was there. Ray Shea, the president, was there. A lot of members of the club were there. I am a member of the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club, so we presented, I mean mostly Ray Shea and Mike Shea. We as a club presented Charlie Kramer with a beautiful picture of him in Victory Lane like 100 years ago with his Pinot with People Vance as the flagger. And I love racers. I love Charlie Kramer. Their memories are so good. In this picture, it was his, very famous yellow and red number 77 Pinot modified. Well, I noticed it was a picture I never saw before. In the picture of the roof of the car had 2 primer spots on each corner of the roof. Charlie Kramer, 77 years old. Picture is probably from 1975. I even said to myself, I guarantee if I ask this man, why is there primer spots on the roof, he'll remember why. And everybody's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. So I said, Charlie, come here a second. I said, why is the whole car like a beautiful yellow and each corner post is primer? Oh, the week before I won this race, Gil put me up in the fence and put me on my roof, and it broke the A-pillars off at the roof, and I had to grind it down and weld it, and it was Saturday morning. I just shot it with primer. Like, he remembered the whole story, man. It was so cool, and that was the whole night over it. It was a whole night of old great racing stories. They had a whole slideshow set up of like all Charlie's race cars and cool pictures, like race shop pictures of the cars being built, because they built all their race chassis and everything. It was just a fun night.
Hashtag no invite.
Yeah, I was invited. I tell you what, I was glad I was, because the food. You want to talk food real quick? They had food there. It was like being at a wedding. It was really set up like a wedding. They had stuffed flounder, which I ate, was really good. They had chicken marsala and all that stuff. And the food was awesome. Cake and coffee, and big, huge birthday cake, a yellow birthday cake with red 77s on it. The balloons are all yellow and red with 77s on it. But another cool story I got out of this was I sat for a while with Bob Menschner, the longtime track crew member at Wall Stadium. And then he's also the Reverend now at the racetrack. And, he gives out those little flags when you win a race, Josh, at the end of the night. And I've been talking to Eric Morello a lot, and I said, hey, man, what do you do with your little flags? He's like, what are you talking about? I've never gotten a little flag. I'm like, yeah, when you win a race, Bob gives you a little flag. He's like, I've never gotten one. I'm like, really? So it got me thinking. So I said to Bob, I said, I talked to Eric Morello. He said he's never gotten one of those flags from you when he wins. He's like, oh, I don't give them to the factory stocks and the four-cylinder guys. So I never knew that, So he just said it's something he does for the lower divisions, Right. So, that was a cool little story. But then me and him got talking more, and I asked, I said, Bob, where like Diane and everybody parks up by the office? I said, that big concrete slab looks like a scale, like an old scale. I'm like, is that the old scale from like the gravel pits? Maybe when the tractor trailers pulled out, they paid for the dirt by weight and they weighed the trucks, And he's like, no, you know what that is? I said, no, I don't. I said, I was always told it was a scale, left over from the gravel pit days. He said, no, he said before Eatontown Inspection Station was open, they used to do car inspections right there at the racetrack. And that pad is where you pulled your car up. And back in the day, Josh, I don't remember when the inspection stations 100 years ago, but they used to like lift the front end of your car up and shake your front wheels to make sure that and then they had those boards that they would slide in front of your car, and you shine your headlights on it, and then you make sure your headlights were adjusted right and all that stuff. Well, that's what the metal is in the ground, in the concrete slab. It was where that post that came up out of the ground and lifted your car up and checked your front end, and the other pieces of metal were where the posts were, where the headlight boards came in front, So there you go. There's some old Wall Stadium history that used to be.
They actually, I was going to say because I drive, the pool trucks or whatever, I take them all for inspection over the winter, and because they're commercial vehicles, they actually still lift them up and check the front end.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, because they're commercial. If it was just a regular passenger or whatever, then they wouldn't care.
So this is what people know. If you come in from the Hurley Pond Road exit from Wall Stadium, and when you get up by the grandstands and you make the left to go towards the office, right on the right-hand side where like Jeff Gravatt parks and Diane parks, right, you'll see there's just a perfect level concrete spot that used to be a New Jersey State Inspection facility, which I thought was a pretty cool.
Is the metal plate still there?
You can see like the metal rings where the tracking was for that stuff, you know. And you
I was going to say,
like
if
the
it still
indentation in the concrete where that lift post was.
I would say if it still worked, and Jeff Gravatt sitting in his car, turned it on, his whole thing started shaking.
To lift his car up right out of the ground. I'm sure the lift's out of there now. But yeah, it was just a cool little story, and that's what the whole night was about. It was just all cool racing stories, and a lot of people were there, and it was a lot of fun.
I did want to say, we didn't really mention it before, but the track crew definitely had their work cut out for them Saturday night. And, I mean, again, I love that they all wear those orange jumpsuits. It really looks professional. They did a hell of a job as usual, and they don't get enough credit. There was one of the four-cylinders, I think it was number 55. That thing got beat to hell and destroyed. One of the whoever was driving the flatbed had to pick it back up and then try to get it onto the guy's trailer. My dad and I were trying to help him. I borrowed one of Neil Rutt's jacks to try to lift the front end up so we could slide it down the trailer as he was lowering it off the flatbed. He ended up having to use part of that bed to push the rear bumper to slide the car up the rest of the way. It was a mess, and but you know they're committed to it, and they do a lot of great work.
And Josh, the four cylinders are the very last feature. So this track crew member is donating his time to help get this car loaded after he's been at the track all day and the races are over, and they're still there after hours helping the teams load their race cars up.
Exactly,
You know?
and they're committed to it, and I just hope that they get appreciated. I don't think they get thanked enough for everything that they do. And luckily, it was a really cool night. It was a gorgeous night. It really was. I mean, people were wearing hoodies. It got chilly.
I had a jacket on tonight. It's cold out tonight.
Yeah. So I hope this weather stays. I love this.
Yeah, me too.
It's a lot easier to clean pools.
I was telling Nancy, it's my favorite time of the year. September, October is my favorite time of the year. Yeah.
All
right, guys. 12:23. Anything else you want to talk about?
Just really quick. Last week at Wall Stadium, the Demolition Derby kind of they've been weak the last couple times. This last Demo Derby was the big car. Did you stay, Scott, for that or no?
No, I didn't.
What a Demo Derby that was, man. And the guy that ended up winning, it was kind of a feel-good story. He drove 2.5 hours with his wife and his kids in the back of his truck, and he came down and he ended up winning. So it was a hell of a
$1,500 too, because she pays good to win those demos.
It was a hell of a Demo Derby, so hopefully that keeps up.
Did he say where he's from? Was he a Long Island guy or a Pennsylvania?
I believe he was a Pennsylvania guy.
Okay,
that's great.
I just wanted to mention the Demo Derby was good.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. So I guess with that, what have we learned today? I'm going to start with Tim.
Nothing. I think I got myself in enough trouble this episode.
All right, Scott.
I learned Spencer Davis was a great guest.
He's a great guy, yeah.
Yeah, great guest, true racer.
That was one of the clearest audio ends of an interview I've ever had.
I tell you what, he started breaking up a little bit, and I started getting a little nervous, but it cleared right up. You know, I thought we were going to have another episode like what we had with Andy Zeus, but he was great, man. We'll definitely have him back on. Thanks, Tim, for getting Spencer on the show.
Yeah, thank you again, Tim. You are our official agent.
One thing I can say about Spencer real quick is he doesn't forget where he came from. Like he drove for Kyle Busch last year, and he was at New Smyrna hanging out with me and Scooter in the pits. Like he hasn't forgotten where he's come from. You know, he's a good kid.
Yeah, no, he seemed incredibly nice, and that was fun. It was all that yes, sir, all that Southern hospitality, right?
Yeah.
But no, he was fun. I wish I had better questions for him. So with that, today I learned that Scott and Spencer don't eat before the race, but Spencer goes to the first drive-thru he can find after the race.
That's not unusual, believe me. I whenever we leave a tour race, you leave for the second one because the first one's always full.
The first one's packed. And just on a side note, me and Nancy usually go to the ARC and eat after the races, but we got out of the races so late the kitchen was closed at the ARC, so we went to the Brick Diner, and it's right across from the Rainbow Diner. We went to the Brick Diner, the one across from the Rainbow Diner, and let me tell you, that place feeds you. I told Tim I ordered a veal parm and spaghetti dinner, and I know I don't eat much because of surgery, but it's still in my refrigerator. I couldn't finish it that night. I couldn't finish it yesterday. There was so much food.
Wait till I tell the girls you eat little baby cows. We shouldn't eat little baby cows. You should be eating chicken parm, not little baby cow parm.
Hey, he's already dead. You might as well enjoy him. I don't care how he was raised.
Oh, my God. I learned that Burger King is a good winner's dinner. I learned that Tim likes chicken and chicken accessories.
Yes.
I learned that Tim doesn't pre or post workout.
Well, that shows, I think.
I learned that Tim drinks bull semen.
It keeps me awake.
I learned that Scott is Stephen Reed's boyfriend. And I learned that there are holes Scott can get into, but he doesn't.
All right,
That's what Tim said.
That concludes episode 148 of the RPM podcast. Thanks for everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Go to wall.
Go to wall. Good night, guys.